Hi, I'm Jen,
I'm Sophia.
And I'm Sybil.
and you're listening to Every Rom Com, the podcast where we have fun taking romantic comedies seriously.
This week on Every Rom Com, we're continuing our musicals series with a stop in the golden age of musicals and a one-day trip in New York.
We'll talk about Romance with a Sailor and whether we see the appeal of a man in uniform.
And we'll discuss perhaps the greatest musical star and innovator of all time, Gene Kelly, as we talk about his 1949 directorial debut, On the Town. Hello, Sybil. Hello, Sophia.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, ladies, what's up?
I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling excited. It's spring. We're talking about musicals. And unlike our first musical, so our first musical we did was Top Hat, and that was an original musical written for the screen. But this week, we're finally going to delve into a musical that was on Broadway first, like as a live musical. And it's interesting. I'm not sure if I've actually, other than high school productions, I don't think I've ever seen an actual professional musical. I've seen opera, and I've seen plays, but I've never seen a musical. I want to know, like, have either of you been people who've gone to see musical theater, and like, what do you think about it versus watching a movie musical?
Well, I fly to New York usually 2 to 3 times a year just to see theater.
That's amazing.
I know, really. And I just came back. Like, I just came back and I saw 3 while I was there.
Would you say
And then I keep, even though I currently live in Vegas, Los Angeles has amazing theater. Because if you think about it, especially musical theater, if you think about all the people who are talented there who are just like unemployed and trying to get jobs, LA has amazing theater, but LA people are TV and film people. So the theater is like $25 a seat. And
Wow.
we get like full on productions from New York that make it to LA. And I'll have seen them in New York for $255 for like a nosebleed. And then LA, I'll get it for like $30 for, front and center orchestra.
Amazing.
Wow. What did you just see on Broadway?
1776,
Okay.
Kimberly Akimbo, 6, and I've forgotten the last one I saw because it must not have been important to me.
I have to say, while I've been watching these, movie musicals, a couple of them they came from Broadway, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see it. And then the movie's fine, but I'm like, oh, I really liked it on stage much better.
Yeah.
So I wonder about that. It was on Broadway, putting it on as a movie versus like written just to be, for film.
So what do you think it is about the ones on the stage that you liked better? Is it that they use different songs because sometimes those get changed, or is it just the energy you like better? What do you think it might be?
Both of that. There were, just having different songs. I'm like, oh, I wish that. Oh, I like the original. Why wasn't that there? And I do think the energy is very different.
I also feel that when you watch a movie, even if it's like a real recording of it, either way, that you are being told what to notice via the direction. Whereas when you're watching it on stage, you're noticing what you want to watch. You're your own director.
I like that.
Yeah, that's true. I think like in some cases, like can be an advantage of movie musicals too, though, because like if you have a really good director who knows where to put your attention, like that's telling a story in itself, like where the camera is being put. It really depends though, whether it's a textbook director or not.
I think that the other thing is one of the problems I've had while I've watched theater is not that something that I saw from the theater to like a film I've had as much trouble with, but I have had a lot of trouble over the years. Anything that was like a movie first that then they tried to adapt into theater.
Oh,
I just I'm like, this is terrible and I can't even watch this crap.
Wow. Okay.
And I think one of the major reasons is my philosophy on musicals, and I might have talked about this before on a podcast with y'all. My philosophy on musicals is that the music, the reason why you have a song are for 2 reasons. One, something is so intense that you cannot speak it in words, that you have to sing it. Or 2, you are going to move the plot along And so this song is telling you information quicker in a song than it could in dialogue.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of times I find that with movies, they make these songs because like, oh, this is where a song should be. I'm like, but this isn't an important song. Why are we singing about sneakers? Who cares? You know, like I just find that to be so true of like stuff that's been adapted from film to the stage.
Well, yeah, I guess that would make sense because in the film they didn't have music. In the film they didn't need it. So
Right.
yeah, it's just I can see what you're saying. I don't have this experience, so I can't really input much into this conversation. But
one of this that does this very well is Mean Girls. It's absolutely fantastic. Both the stage production, which I actually like even more than the movie, does such a good job taking that like what's important in the movie and bringing it as lyrics and dialogue into the musical. I can't speak highly enough about Mean Girls. It's so good.
I don't know if this has tainted you, Jen. Like, okay, I got to study in London and we watched all kinds of theater. That was part of the thing. And we got to see Oklahoma. And man, up until we got there, I was like, Oklahoma. Like all I'd ever seen was high school productions of Oklahoma. Okay, we get there and it was freaking magical. It was so beautiful. A real orchestra, real singers and dancers and stuff like that. It was just the greatest. So if you remember things from high school, you know.
Oh no, it's not even like I didn't like the things in high school. It's just like I haven't used the money I've had in my life to like go to live performances all that much. Yeah, I mean, and I've spent a lot of my time making theater too, which I actually kind of enjoy making theater more in some ways. So yeah, and I guess musicals too. Like I thought of myself as a person who liked musicals, but then when I started preparing for this musical series, I was like, oh shit, I've seen like about 10 musicals dozens of times, and then I've missed out on like a whole lot of the history of musical theater. And so I've been just like educating myself now, like getting caught up with things. So yeah. Any other favorite live musical productions from either of you?
I mean, there's so many.
I know. There's so many.
Let's just talk about Hamilton. We could talk about that forever. Whereas I hated the movie version on Disney, which is how most people have seen it. And in live, it's absolutely incredible.
Wow, that's interesting because I tried to watch it on Disney and I couldn't get into it. So
there's too many close shots. There's too many close-up shots. Hamilton it's designed around a stage that moves, and the stage itself and all the dancers that are supporting are the things that move it along.
Okay.
And so I think if you saw the Disney version, that was just, it's so many close-up shots. You don't get enough like width of the stage. You don't have that, breadth of information.
Sure. Well, that's good to know. Because like I was like just not into it and I didn't understand the phenomenon, but maybe it's because I didn't have that experience. So good to know. So before we get started today, a few notes. First, as usual, there will be a spoiler-free section at the beginning of the episode, and we will warn you when the spoilers are about to start.
We'd also like to remind you that you can follow the podcast on social media. Our Facebook page is Every Rom Com podcast and blog. Our Instagram is @Every Rom Com, and our Twitter handle is @EveryRomComPod.
And as always, you can find the podcast at everyromcom.com. Send us feedback at feedback@everyromcom.com. And if you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
And finally, if you'd like to help us keep the podcast going, we now have a Buy Me a Coffee page at buymeacoffee.com/everyromcom. We'll put a link to that page in the show notes. And just big thanks in advance to anyone who's willing to show us some support. And now we will listen to part of the trailer for On the Town.
New York, New York, a wonderful town. The Bronx is up and the Battery's down. The people ride in a hole in the ground. New York, New York, it's a wonderful town. East side, west side, round the city. One day, one night, that's the pity. We won't look ahead, or let the light of dawn get us down. We're really living, Jack, we're going on the town.
In one of the many famous museums in the big town, our studious friends find interesting and edifying knowledge.
Hey, hum, biddy, hum, biddy, hum, biddy, 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 hum,
machine once said, you can count on me. As our three happy gobs and three happy girls walk merrily toward the setting sun, we reluctantly say farewell to them and hello to Metro Golden Mares on the town.
3 smart gals and 3 slick fellas. We're gonna paint it red, fill them up and then drink them down. Let's have a ball tonight. We're going on the town.
Yeah.
It's such a cheesy trailer. Oh my gosh. And there's a whole beginning section with just that weird narrator guy, like talking about their trip, and then it's like ironic images behind it, basically. So yeah.
Way to go. Way to go, narrator dude. That's funny. On the Town came out December 30th, 1949. And it's written by Adolph Green, Betty Comden, and Jerome Robbins. It was directed by Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly. It's starring Gene Kelly, Vera Ellen, Frank Sinatra, Betty Garrett, Jules Munchin, and Ann Miller. And the music is by Leonard Bernstein, with additional music by Roger Edens. Adolph Green and Betty Comden wrote lyrics for both.
Yeah.
All right.
Right on. All right. So the basic premise is this. 3 sailors arrive in New York for a day on shore. So like they have their shore leave. Ozzy and Gabe, who are super into like meeting women because, hey, they're sailors. Then we have Chip, who just wants to go sightseeing. While riding the subway, Gabe sees a very beautiful poster with Ivy Smith, who is known as Miss Turnstile, and becomes obsessed with meeting her. Like he's like super obsessed. When they get off the subway, they immediately see Ivy in real life, and she's having her picture taken. And she looks like a movie star. And so Gabe, who is like too stunned to actually talk to her, he decides that he's going to make it his mission to go on a date with her. So he's going to go like stalk her and find her, essentially. While helping Gabe find Ivy, the other men meet their own kind of girls. So we have Ozzy meets Claire, who's an anthropology student, and Chip is pursued by Hildy, who is a cab driver. Ozzy and Claire and Chip and Hildy split up so that Gabe can continue a search for Miss Turnstile, but everyone agrees that they're going to meet at the top of the Empire State Building at 8:30. Which can I go ahead and put in here at this point? Be like, is that the first time that happened in any movie ever?
Yeah, I didn't do research on it, but I feel like that's such a trope, and I don't know if there's an earlier example of it or not.
Yeah, because you'd mentioned that, and I was like, you're absolutely right. That is such like a trope, but is it a trope because of this?
Because then there's an Affair to Remember.
Yeah.
But that's after this, I think, right?
Yeah,
Am
it
I
is,
right?
totally.
I didn't even think of it.
I didn't until Jen mentioned it, and I was like, that's so true.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Okay, so there's so many interesting facts to know about this movie. First, let's just put it in its place in American musical history. So, according to Red Hot and Blue, a Smithsonian salute to the American musical, the era beginning in 1943 with the stage version of Oklahoma was the beginning of the golden age of the American stage and movie musical. And that lasted about through the late 1950s, or some will say the 1960s. And it's kind of called the golden age because there were a ton of musicals coming out during that time. They were both on stage and on screen. They had really great cultural relevance at the time. And they were starting to make sort of innovations in the genre and making it so that the music in the movies was more seamless with the stories, and also adding more of a dance element integrated into the movies. So yeah, this was a really creative time for this genre. And On the Town came right at the beginning of it, basically. As we mentioned, On the Town was first a Broadway musical. It began its run in December 1944, which was still during World War II. So the cultural context of it then was a little different than when it reached the screen. And it ran for 462 performances until February 1946. It ended up grossing more than $2 million, and it would eventually be revived on Broadway in 1972, 1998, and 2014. And it was also put on in London in 2017. So it's had a lot of different showings of On the Town.
Also, it made, I mean, for a first run, 462 days, that's incredible.
Yeah, I don't really know how to compare it, but it sounded good.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's like, that's like Phantom Cat's land.
Phantom, I was imagining that as one musical now. I know what you mean, but okay.
That's awesome.
So, On the Town was written, as we mentioned, by Jerome Robbins, Adolph Green, and Betty Comden. And Green and Comden, the writers, also played Ozzie and Claire in the Broadway version of the musical. So they were quite versatile people. The music for the musical was by Leonard Bernstein and choreography by Jerome Robbins. And the Broadway musical had a lot of interesting things that we actually don't see in the movie. So the Broadway musical had an integrated cast, which was a big deal at the time, including in a lead role. So Ivy/Miss Turnstiles was played by Japanese American dancer Sono Osato. And like, keep in mind, again, this was during World War II,
Yeah.
so that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then 6 of the 56 cast members were Black, and the musical included at least one scene of a black and white dancer dancing together. So that was a big deal. Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't like leave that for the film. It kind of makes me
Well,
sad that they didn't.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
We'll get there in just a moment. Yeah. The Broadway show also featured the first Black conductor to regularly conduct a Broadway show. Leonard Bernstein asked conductor Everett Lee to conduct the show starting in September of 1945.
Wow, that's also huge. Wow.
Yeah. So let's see, Gene Kelly was still in the Navy when he called producer Arthur Freed to suggest making On the Town into a movie. And he found out that MGM had already bought the rights. And here we come to the changes. Louis B. Mayer, the studio head, was not happy about some aspects of the show. He didn't like that it was racially integrated, and he didn't like some of the movie's sexual innuendo. So many changes were made. And then because of Gene Kelly's interest, the story was also changed to make Gabe more of a main character in the story. And then more changes were made to the music because Mayer and I think also producer Arthur Freed found that Bernstein's music was too sophisticated for movie audiences. So the Bernstein songs which remain in the movie are I Feel Like I'm Not Out of Bed Yet, New York, New York, Miss Turnstiles Ballet, Come Up to My Place, and the A Day in New York Ballet. And then the other songs on the soundtrack for the movie, including the titular On the Town, were actually by Roger Edens, but the same people did the lyrics for both. So that's interesting, though, to me, to find out that On the Town was not in the original musical, given that it's like the title song, sort of, in the movie.
I want to now watch the stage production because it sounds so much better.
Yeah. I have to say, I feel like I'm Not Out of Bed Yet is the most like Broadway musical sounding to me with like, that voice, and I don't know, it's actually beautiful to me and kind of my favorite like song and part compared to a couple others that I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Yeah. So
yeah, true. And I'm Not Out of Bed Yet. Like also like, because it starts and ends it, right? So it's bookend pieces. And also his voice in the film is just so incredible.
Yeah.
Right.
Gorgeous.
Very Broadway.
Yeah.
So Leonard Bernstein was not super happy about the changes then made to the show. In the book, Gene Kelly, A Life of Dance and Dreams, Bernstein is quoted as saying, "There are 6 songs in that picture which are not good and are not by me, yet people assume I wrote them. I resent that," end quote.
He's like, my shit is so sophisticated and I got left with this garbage.
And I actually don't think the other songs are garbage. Like, I mean, maybe it's because it's of nostalgia. We'll get to that in general opinion, but like, I can understand why he would be upset though,
100%.
Yeah. So in terms of the cast for On the Town, the movie version, Kelly had already made another Sailors on Leave film, Anchors Aweigh, with Frank Sinatra. And he also worked with Sinatra, Betty Garrett, and Jules Munchin on the movie Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And in that movie, their characters played very similar types. It's interesting. And then Kelly had also previously danced with Vera Ellen in the Slaughter on 10th Avenue scene of the musical Words and Music. And that is quite a sexy dance scene. It's very different than Vera Ellen's image in this movie. So that's worth checking out if you want to go over on YouTube and see that. And I might put a link to it in the show notes, actually. This movie marked the directorial debut of Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen. Though according to one of Kelly's biographies, they had also basically taken over directing on Take Me Out to the Ball Game because Busby Berkeley could not deal with directing them. They were being too difficult and kind of disagreeing with him on too much. Okay, and the movie On the Town had 1 month of rehearsals, and once it was shooting, Donnan and Kelly worked 18-hour days, but it was said they did not make the rest of the cast work those days, but they were just on it all the time. It ended up being a very successful movie, both critically and financially. It grossed over $4 million, and it won a 1950 Oscar for Best Music. And the film is considered innovative in a couple ways. So when, to us, like the modern audience, I'm sure this movie seems pretty, kind of standard, if not maybe even a little hokey, right? But there were a few things they did that were kind of innovative. Like, first of all, the time scroll at the bottom of the screen was like a new thing they were trying, and it was supposed to represent the Times Square ticker. There was also quick cutting in the montage of the New York scenery, and apparently the quick cutting was kind of a newer thing. And then most importantly, this was the first movie musical to shoot on location with its location scenes in New York. So this was actually new stuff at the time.
Yeah, when I remember when I saw the ticker, I was like, oh, like I was surprised because I was like, oh, I didn't even know they had the technology to kind of do that yet.
To put the
So I was
timestamps
surprised
on the
by that.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I guess like I didn't think much of it when I first saw it, but like when I'm looking at it, is more of like a moviegoer has put things into historical context. I'm like, yeah, I can see that being new. And
Isn't
the
it?
quick cuts too. Like we take those for granted, but like there weren't a lot of movies using cuts like that.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
you might talk about this later, but wasn't it Gene Kelly who was like, we need to do on, like, we have to do on location stuff? Like,
Yeah,
he was the one to force
absolutely.
that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it adds such a dynamism, I think, to the movie to have that.
It
It looks
definitely,
great.
it definitely like made you like more in the city. Like you felt like you were a part of the city instead of just like I also, you could really tell when you were a part of a stage and when you're part of the city. So I was a little weirded by that sometimes. But I think it's
Okay.
also because we watch with, our 20th century, movie knowledge.
Yeah, and 21st century now.
21st
Too.
century, true.
Yeah. So Gene Kelly is quoted in the book He's Got Rhythm, The Life and Career of Gene Kelly, as saying, "We made better pictures than that, but that was the apex of our talent. Maybe my biggest contribution to the film musical." So yeah, he had quite a high regard for it, even years later. And I'm going to be relying on a few books during this podcast. I'll put them in the show notes. But by far, the book I got the most from was He's Got Rhythm, The Life and Career of Gene Kelly by Cynthia Brideson and Sarah Brideson. If you're like even slightly interested in Gene Kelly, I really recommend it. Okay, so let's talk about our opinion of the film when you first saw it, what you thought of it then, what you think of it now. And I usually let you guys go first, but I think I need to go first this time just because
Okay,
I
do it.
suspect
Go
I was
ahead.
the first person who saw this out of the three of us. I don't know. Like I grew up on
Yes.
this movie. Like
Did you?
Yeah, I absolutely grew up on the Town. I don't know why, but it was one of the tapes we had, right? And I must have seen this movie like 100 times when I was a kid. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 100. Like I knew all the numbers, I knew all the songs. I shipped Hildy, the cab driver, in Chip. That was my ship, I guess you could say, when I was a little kid. Like that's who I identified with. And I guess I really took for granted a lot of the dancing and stuff like that. It's only like now that I can see it. I just really like the story. It really appealed to a kid to see these like sailors, and there's three couples and they're in New York City. And it seemed really fun to me. So it was very nostalgic for me. Like when I watch it now, I still really like it. I think there's musicals I like better now and stories I respond to more now, but also now learning about the artistry and the innovation involved in it, I can also appreciate that on a different level. So I like it, but I like it in a different way now. I don't like it in my child's view kind of way anymore.
I really so I had never seen it before. I literally watched it just for this podcast. And one of the things I really loved about it was that it seemed very progressive. And we've talked about this before, that this era had a lot of like very progressive, for women especially, ideas, but also progressive in the idea that they all can just be friends. When they're doing their dances and they're meeting each other, they're very friendly to each other. And when they end their relationships, they're friends. It's not about like a big passionate thing for everyone. It's just about like people meeting and finding friendship.
This was the first time I saw it, and it was okay. Like I said, I had high expectations with that opening number, and then it kept going. I'm like, oh, I, of course, having lived in Brooklyn for 13 years, I loved the actual footage of the city. That was super great. And I wanted my husband to watch this with me. I'm like, come on, watch it with me. Watch it with me. And he's like, I'm not going to watch the musical. But then I saw this opening number. I'm like, wait, you have to see it. You'll flip out for the, old New York. So he liked that too. That was cool. I love Vera Ellen from,
White Christmas.
yeah, like absolutely my favorite.
Yeah.
And Gene Kelly is super cute. I've always been a fan. So it was cute. I think I liked it even on like the second viewing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm over here
Yeah.
on 100 and something. I don't know.
Oof.
I definitely would not watch it again on purpose.
Oh, okay.
I watched
Yeah.
it once and I was like, and I fast forwarded through a lot of the dance numbers and I was like, that's
No. I'm sorry.
That's hilarious.
Gene Kelly just rolled over in his grave. Just
whatever.
now.
He was super boring.
Oh my God, you're talking about my new boyfriend. Last week
I
it was
know,
the
it's
Chris
okay.
Bear.
It's okay.
This
It's
week it's
fine.
Gene Kelly. Actually, I think Gene Kelly's going to last a little longer. Do you guys have any more to talk about your general opinion right now, or should I start talking about my new musical boyfriend?
You should
I
definitely
want
talk
to hear.
about your
Yeah, I want to hear
boyfriend.
about your boyfriend.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God. So when I was a kid, Gene Kelly was not the person that stuck out to me in this movie. Like, it was definitely like, Frank Sinatra's character, because I liked his relationship with Hildy. I thought they had the more interesting, like, kind of songs. Now that I know that one of those was the Leonard Bernstein song, that totally makes sense. But man, when I started watching other Gene Kelly movies preparing for this podcast, I kind of fell in love with him. Like, I'm crushing on him like a little teenager right now. Like, and I'll talk about some of those movies more in the double feature recommendations. But then I read a biography of him and I was like, dude, this guy is so cool. He's so intense. Like, so I'm going to tell you about Gene Kelly and I'm going to try not to talk for too long and feel free to interject things. But I'm just going to say, like, I completely understand what the fuss is about now. Right? Like, I always knew he was important. I always knew Singing in the Rain was a great movie, like that he was very influential, but like, he's such an amazing, talented person and he had such an interesting life story. So without further ado, so he was born in 1912 in Pittsburgh. He was in a Catholic family. He has I never noticed this before. Did you guys notice his scar?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a
Totally.
scar on his face, which for some reason I watched this movie a million times, never noticed it before. He has a scar on his left cheek, which he got from like a tricycle accident when he was a kid.
Wow,
So,
that's
yeah,
some gash.
nothing manly or anything like that, just like a little trike accident. Kelly and all his brothers and sisters were all given dance lessons because his mother had wanted to be a performer and had some experience on the stage when she was younger. So she was kind of, I think, trying to live vicariously through them. And he and his siblings also began performing in shows. And Gene was also like choreographing and directing shows for like other kids, like at quite a young age. So this was like another story like Fred Astaire of people becoming involved in like shows and performing quite early in their life. So initially, Gene Kelly wanted to do sports and he was doing like baseball, gymnastics, football, like all kinds of things. But he told like interviewers he might have been being a little cheeky here, that he started up with dancing again because it allowed him to meet girls. And then during the Depression, performing also like brought in money. So he often performed with his brother, Fred Kelly. He did go to college and he was about to go into law school, but he ended up realizing he really wanted to dance. And so he came home to Pittsburgh and his family started a dance school. And Gene and some of his siblings were the teachers there. And like this part of the biography was super interesting because this dance school became like a huge deal. Like it became a chain and like people from all over wanted to like take classes with them. And like he was also at the same time choreographing shows for people. He was like being a dance doctor for like vaudeville acts and telling them what was wrong with their performances. It sounded like he was just like one of those people that's working all the time. It became like literally, he became such a big deal like in Pittsburgh that like people from New York actually found him and tried to recruit him for Broadway. Finally, he ended up moving to New York in 1938. And he was also at one point offered an opportunity to be in a ballet troupe, but he said, quote, "I knew I couldn't stay with straight classical ballet. I had to create something of my own. I had to express manliness and strength and Cokes and hot dogs and football and basketball and jazz." And he said he wanted to find what he called the American dance. So he wanted to combine aspects of ballet, tap, and modern dance. And he eventually then decided to, instead of going into a ballet troupe or continuing to run the schools, he went to New York in 1938. Once he went to New York, he found success relatively quickly. He got cast as Harry the Hoofer in The Time of Your Life, and he met future collaborator Stanley Donen while they were doing choreography on the show Best Foot Forward. Like Donen was assisting him at that time. And then he started starring in Pal Joey in 1940 on Broadway and attracted Hollywood attention. He also met his first wife, Betsy Blair, on that show. They got married and moved to Hollywood together after the run of the show. Okay, so now we get into the movies. And so the first movie I watched when I, like, just randomly, when I was trying to watch other Gene Kelly films, was his first movie, the 1942's For Me and My Gal. And he was in that with Judy Garland. And Garland was like one of the people who told MGM that they should get him for the picture. And then she ended up helping him translate his acting from the stage to the screen. And he ended up being like really grateful to Judy Garland for like the rest of his career. He was like one of her big supporters over time.
Cool.
His next significant film was CoverGirl in 1944, and that's when Kelly and Donnan began collaborating on choreography for films. And in that movie, Kelly did another innovation. He did this challenge dance where there was like two images of himself dancing with each other, like on the screen, which was like new at the time also. Then, before joining the actual Navy, Kelly worked with Frank Sinatra on Anchors Aweigh. And in that movie, there was the first ever musical scene to combine live action with a cartoon. Like Disney had been working on this, but they actually did it first using Jerry Mouse from Tom and Jerry.
Oh, that's so cute. I like that dance number. I've seen clips of that. Mm-hmm.
And so Kelly was really anxious to serve in World War II, and he wanted to leave earlier, but MGM wouldn't release him until November 1944. And then he was disappointed because he got put into the Navy's photographic unit, and he was making training films, but he ended up making kind of a really interesting one called Combat Fatigue Irritability, which is like basically about what we call PTSD today. So he directed it and starred in that. So he made some contributions that way, and he was also learning directing while he was there. And then back from the war, and I'm only including this film because I think it's really fun, okay? I'm going to talk about it later. He made his second film with Garland, The Pirate, and it's a really over-the-top movie. And there was another first in this film, though. Kelly performs a dance with Black performers, the Nicholas Brothers, and it was the first time Black and white dancers had danced together in a film, according to the sources I've read, which seems insane that it took until 1948. I'm wondering if there's like some other instance where they were almost performing together. I don't know.
Well, I'm wondering, when were the Shirley Temple films made? Earlier, right? And
I don't
she was
know.
dancing with like the butler, the black butler and stuff like
Okay.
that. And they do that dance on the stairs. I mean, did they
Yeah,
not
maybe-
count that because she's
I
a
don't know.
child?
Maybe they didn't count it. Did they make physical contact with each other?
Oh, I don't
maybe
even know if
that's
they're
what it
holding
is.
hands or not.
Because he was like, because they were like in the Pirate, they were like kind of doing these dance maneuvers that were very acrobatic and all holding on to each other. So maybe that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, Kelly made a few more films before On the Town, including Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which Kelly and Donnan wrote for the story for together. Then after making On the Town together as their directorial debut, Kelly performed in his third and final movie with Judy Garland in 1950 called Summer Stock. Then in 1951, Kelly appeared in one of his most famous roles, An American in Paris, which won 6 Oscars, including Best Picture. At the time, An American in Paris was kind of considered the more important film, but like over time, I would say 1952's Singing in the Rain is like taken over. Singing in the Rain was also co-directed by Kelly and Donnan, and it was written by Betty Comden and Adolph Green from On the Town. So it has a lot of similar creators. Other significant 1950s films for Kelly were Brigadoon, It's Always Fair Weather, Kelly's experimental all-dance movie, Invitation to the Dance, which he directed, and the movie Marjorie Morningstar. Stanley Donnan and Gene Kelly ended their directorial collaboration and their friendship with the movie It's Always Fair Weather. Apparently, they had too many creative differences on that movie. Donnan has a lot of, unfortunately, Donnan does not have much good to say about Kelly in his interviews later in life. He was quoted as saying, "If you substitute the word fight for co-direct, then you have it. It wasn't always like that with Gene, but it gradually came to be that." So by the late 1950s, Kelly's movie work was slowing down, but he returned to Broadway and directed Flower Drum Song. He was also asked to direct and choreograph a jazz ballet for the Paris Opera Ballet, which was super well regarded at the time. And with the increasing importance of television, he began directing and choreographing and performing in TV specials. He also appeared in the TV version of Going My Way from 1962 to 1963. In the 60s, he also made movies including Inherit the Wind, What a Way to Go, and The Young Girls of Rochefort. He directed Hello, Dolly in 1969. And in the 70s, he directed the Cheyenne Social Club, and he appeared as himself and directed segments in the That's Entertainment documentary films. And his last film, as many people know, was Xanadu in 1980, which we are also going to cover in our musical series. And he continued also to work in television, including on the show North and South. So this is really surprising. So I found out this. In addition to the work that Gene Kelly did do, he also missed out on some other really famous work. So he was injured, so he wasn't able to do Easter Parade, for which he was the first pick.
Okay.
He was not allowed to do Pal Joey the movie or Guys and Dolls because MGM wouldn't let him, and he was really pissed about that. And he was also asked to direct The Sound of Music, which he turned down because he thought the stage show was kind of dull, I guess, at the time. And he was asked to direct Cabaret, and I think the reason he didn't do Cabaret was because his second wife was having ill health at the time, so which she eventually died. So but he was asked to do a lot of prominent things too. He never won an Oscar for a specific performance, but he did win an honorary Oscar in 1952. And here's where we come to the difficult things, like with Stanley Donen. So he was known to be a perfectionist. Like, he was really hard on himself as well, but he could be hard on others. So particularly like Esther Williams had nothing good to say about him, really, except that he could dance. And Debbie Reynolds had like mixed things to say about him. She said it was pretty hellish working on it, but she did have nice things to say about him later and said that the work had been worth it. But he was also really helpful to a lot of actors. So he helped up their dancing skills, including Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, and Debbie Reynolds. And he was really loyal to Judy Garland. So he was like a very complicated dude, it seems like. He was married 3 times. He married actress Betsy Blair when she was only 17.
What
They were
the
together.
F?
Well, okay. Number one, she was working as a chorus girl in New York City from the time she was 15, like living on her own. So like this was like completely different time. Okay. All the chorus girls were like 16, 17 years old.
Wow.
They apparently, like from what I can find out, they didn't sleep together before they were married. And he asked her parents for permission. It was all very properly done. And he never cheated on her. Like, she actually ended up cheating on him, and he wanted to stay together with her. And he said he'd been ignoring the cheating because he knew that she didn't really have like a normal adolescence, right? But like she was ready to go off on her own. But she had like nothing but good things to say about him. Like after, like years after they divorced, they like became friends pretty much immediately. So on the one hand, you can say what the F. On the other hand, it was a totally different time, and they were
It was a
together
different
from
time, but you look at that now and you're like, oh my God, 17, that's crazy. But
No, I don't look
will
at it
How old
say-
was he? How old was
He
he
was
when they
like
got married?
29, I want to say. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
See, I don't say it's crazy just because I'm like, it was a totally different time. People had a
was a different
completely
time.
different idea of what adolescence meant, what being an adult meant. Like,
Yeah.
dudes were going off to die in trenches. Like, well, not trenches. It's not World War One, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, they were together for like 16 years. They had one child who like had nothing but good to say about Gene Kelly as a dad. So it seems like they were a pretty, happy family unit. His second wife, then Jeannie Coyne, had been in love with him since she was 12 years old, and he was her dance teacher. And she had worked with him over the years as an assistant choreographer, and briefly been married to Stanley Donen from 1948 to 1951. Kelly and Coyne ended up getting married, like, I think it was a couple years after his divorce from Betsy Blair. And apparently were very happy together. They had 2 kids, but then Coyne died of leukemia in 1973, which was like super heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then finally, Kelly married Patricia Ward in 1990. Now, this is a really strange situation. They met when she was 26 and he was 73, and they married 5 years later. Like,
Holy
this is
cow,
Freddie Astaire
wow.
married like a super younger woman too when he was older. And like, there's various people. Like, some people think Patricia Ward is just like a fine person, but Betsy Blair, his first wife, did not have good things to say about her.
Oh, really?
So Gene Kelly then died at 83 years old of complications from a stroke. But he had a huge influence on the American musical and American movies. There's a quote from the book He's Got Rhythm. Gene's creations revolutionized dance and helped make America the leader in contemporary movement. As one journalist expressed it, he drew upon the whimsy of tap, the showmanship of the eccentric dancer, the free form of Martha Graham, his own skills as a gymnast, and organized all of it with legitimate classical disciplines. the bristling package of rhythm and style hit the dance world with a fallout that is still being felt. And like the more I see of his work, the more like I feel this and can agree with it and can appreciate it really. Like I just got handed this on a VHS tape when I was a kid and like after decades had gone by and had no real framework for it. Now having more of a framework for it and seeing it like after the Astaire Rogers movies, like which were much more aimed at high class, like where the characters were much more high class. Like he also like sort of democratized dance and brought it down to like regular people in the streets dancing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't anymore for like the top hat and white tail people. It was for just a guy.
All right, so we're going to talk about Vera Ellen, who played Ivy Smith, aka Miss Turnstiles. She was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, in either 1921 or 1926. Let's be honest, she's one of those gals who's like, you'll never know my age. So, and she successfully did it because before the internet. So, credible sources give one of those 2 years. Her full name was Vera Ellen Westmeyer Rowe. Several days before she was born, her mother had dreamed that her name, Vera Ellen, including that hyphen, and believed that it would be in lights. I mean, that's pretty hardcore for her mom. She began taking dance lessons at 10 years old as a way to strengthen her health. She also traveled to New York and began to get stage work, so her mother moved to the city with her. She appeared in her first musical, which was Very Warm for May in 1939. So at 18, she began performing at Radio City, because gosh, those legs, Music Hall as one of the youngest Rockettes. For as talented a dancer she was, she surprisingly only had 16 IMDb credits. That's really sad. She's amazing. She made her movie debut in The Wonder Man with Danny Kaye in 1945 and followed that up with another Danny Kaye movie, The Kid from Brooklyn, in 1946. Before doing On the Town, she also appeared in several other films, including the Marx Brothers movie Love Happy and in Words and Music. Vera Ellen continued to make movies after On the Town, including 2 films with Fred Astaire, Three Little Words and The Belle of New York. Perhaps her most famous film appearance, even bigger than On the Town, was in the 1954 classic White Christmas. For more about White Christmas, make sure you check out Every Rom Com episode 52. Her last movie was Let's Be Happy in 1957. During the 1950s, Vera Ellen also made television appearances. Vera Ellen's singing voice was often dubbed in her movies, but there is no dubbing mentioned for On the Town. Vera Ellen was married and divorced twice. During her second marriage, which lasted from 1954 to 1966, she had a child who died from SIDS in 1963. After this tragic event, Vera Ellen retreated from public life. During her life and afterwards, there were rumors that Vera Ellen had an eating disorder, but a close friend and niece both denied this. She died of ovarian cancer in 1981 at the age of 60. So
Tragic.
So young.
So sad.
Yeah.
Well, On the Town also stars Betty Garrett. Betty was born in 1919 in Missouri, but her family quickly moved to Seattle, Washington. Her mother ended up divorcing 2 husbands during Garrett's childhood, so Garrett often lived with a single mother. Garrett attended school in Tacoma, and though her school didn't have any official theater, she would organize performances. In high school, she was able to meet Martha Graham, who recommended her for a scholarship at the neighborhood playhouse in New York City. Wow. To meet Martha. Woo! Garrett and her mother moved to the city in 1936, and Garrett began studying and also performing in the Borscht Belt during the summers. She then began performing with other theater groups and in Martha Graham's dance company. In 1942, she made her Broadway debut in Of Thee We Sing and continued to work on Broadway until 1947 when she was signed to a contract with MGM. Her first movie was Big City in 1948. Before On the Town, she also appeared in Words and Music, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and Neptune's Daughter. In the early 50s, Garrett toured the UK with her actor husband, Larry Parks. His career and hers, to some extent, had been affected by the Hollywood blacklist. In 1955, Garrett appeared in the musical My Sister Eileen, and her last film for decades was the noir drama The Shadow on the Window in 1957. After that, Garrett returned to performing in theater, including a few Broadway shows, and did some guest spots on TV. Garrett and her husband, Larry Parks, were owners landlords of apartment buildings for their income, and Garrett also kept busy raising their 2 sons. Garrett had a career revival in 1973 to 1975 when she began playing Irene on the TV show All in the Family. She won a Golden Globe for that role in 1974. Then, in 1976 to 1981, Garrett played the role of Edna in Laverne and Shirley. Garrett continued to appear on television through 2006 on shows including Murder, She Wrote, The Golden Girls, Boston Public, and Grey's Anatomy. She also continued to appear in theater and directed an Arthur Miller play, The Price, at Theater West, which she co-founded. Garrett has 2 final films listed in IMDb, both of which appear to be low-budget B films, Trail of the Screaming Forehead and Dark and Stormy Night. Betty died in 2011 of an aortic aneurysm.
Yeah, so we have some really talented people, and I'm sorry we aren't able to get to the other talented people in the cast and crew. Like, obviously, we talked about other cast and crew include Frank Sinatra, Ann Miller, Jules Munchin, not to mention the crew and also the music of Leonard Bernstein, but we just don't have time to cover everybody, partly because I had to do an epic poem to Gene Kelly. But hopefully we'll get around to covering at least some of them on future episodes of the podcast. So now let's get into the movie. So we open the movie, we see again, like we mentioned, this 5:57 a.m. digital time scroll across the bottom of the movie screen. And we see this fabulous dock worker show up on the dock. Actually, not really fabulous. He's just this like big guy, and he's got this really great big deep voice, and he sings his little song. I feel like I'm not out of bed yet. Okay, never mind. I can't sing that deep, but we'll try. Oh, well, the sun is warm, but my blanket's warmer. Sleep, sleep in your lady's arms. Sleep in your lady's arms. Anyway, that guy rules.
Very good.
So like when I was like a kid, like when I was like an adolescent, like trying to get up for school, I literally would sing this song sometimes.
Fantastic. Oh, sun is warm. Yeah, I would sing that too.
Like
Shoot.
I was some kind of dock worker or something going into like my first period class, like whatever. Anyway, we now come to 6 a.m. on the bottom of the screen. A horn blasts, and there's like all this energy as sailors disembark from a Navy ship. And they were actually able to use a real Navy ship for this scene, and it was filmed in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Kelly had some pull with the Navy since he'd served in it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And these 3 sailors like immediately emerge next to the dock worker, Kelly, Sinatra, and Munchin, and they begin singing New York, New York. And yeah, the only comment I have about that initial song is that the original Broadway music called New York a hell of a town, but Louis B. Mayer was like, it's got to be wonderful. Or the censors. I don't know, one or the other.
Yeah.
What do you guys make of this whole first scene here?
This first scene reminds me of the Sex and the City episode about all the sailors who come into town for one day. Every time. I'm just like, oh, look at all the boys. All the Navy men are out. It's Sailor Week.
Sure, yeah. All of a sudden, the city's just, everybody in their white uniforms. It's fun. You're like, ooh, Fleet Week. It just feels like, nostalgic for things like this, for this
Were you
film.
ever in a position to flirt with a sailor, or were you already like taken? Okay, all right.
No. No. I've been singing this song, though. The Bronx is up and the battery's down. New York, New York. Yeah.
It's a wonderful town. You couldn't leave me hanging like that, Sophia.
Well, I'm not gonna try that. They travel around in a hole in the ground. I'm like, that's true.
And that is one of the original Bernstein songs too, so preserved from the original musical. Yeah.
Lovely.
So yeah, and like this, before we get going into the rest of the movie here, this is one of the many movies of this time period, because it's the World War II time period, that focused on romance with sailors or members of the military. There were a lot of films, of course, that were sort of doubling as propaganda as well, right? And it was also relevant to people's lives. And then like the idea of military men being like somehow romantic, or attractive, I would say it goes as far back as at least Jane Austen, because you've got Pride and Prejudice,
Sure.
You've got Persuasion. So I don't think it's as much of a genre anymore, although I could be wrong, Sybil and Sophia. Maybe you know more. Maybe there are more military romance novels that I'm unaware of. But what do you think of this genre of romance with Navy or military men? Like, is it something you get the appeal of, or does it not do much for you?
It doesn't do much for me.
No, I don't care. Though I will say that there are surprisingly a lot of still military romance stuff that comes out. I think it's just like more like Hallmark movies and stuff. Like I just saw one called Purple Hearts on Netflix, which
Oh.
is very, very good, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
excellent rom com, excellent.
So nothing for either of you at all. Like,
No,
No, not
What
for
about-
no.
men in
I mean,
uniform don't do it for me though, and I think this is like a man in uniform protection white knight scenario.
yeah,
hmm.
I think okay. I mean, I think that firefighters are cool. They're not military, but in uniform, right? I have a friend who's obsessed with firefighters, so it became like more fun for me every time I spot one. I'm like, a firefighter. So if I were to like go goofy for anybody in uniform, it would be firefighters.
Yeah, I've never really gotten the appeal of the military men thing, and I think it's because like post maybe 1960s, post Vietnam War, I think
Oh.
it just like took on such a different tinge, right? Like
Sure.
in the World War II and in previous wars, I think a lot of times like you thought of like men serving in the military as like doing their duty, very patriotic, like very laudable, right? Or at least I think a lot of people felt that way. And then it just became a different thing in our society. Like, and the wars that we fought became less, clear
Mm.
cut in a lot of ways, and
Mhm.
sometimes even perhaps wrong at times. So it's like it really does put a different tenor onto the whole situation. Like, and uniforms have never done much for me, but I will say that these actors look mighty fine in their uniforms, especially Gene Kelly.
Yes.
Interesting note. Interesting note. Apparently, Frank Sinatra had to have his
Yes.
uniform padded.
Yes.
You,
I
you
read
knew
that
this?
too. I read
Okay.
this as well as I was, searching around and stuff because he was so scrawny and he was self conscious about it. And when they patted his butt, he was self conscious about that. Poor Frank. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that's not Frank's butt.
Guess
No.
not.
Oh, poor Frank. He was like, I just needed a Brazilian butt lift. I'm so sad.
But Jean's buns.
Dude, if you go to Letterboxd, like, and go to any review of any Gene Kelly film, almost any Gene Kelly film, it's all people were third of the commenters are talking about his butt. I'm not even kidding. So it's just
Well,
point of interest.
Dancers' asses, they move you. That's how they get around that butt. That ass. It does work.
All right, so well, moving on. So we get into now this montage that we've talked about. So they had 5 days to shoot on. They were only given 5 days to shoot on location, and 2 of those days were rainy. But they managed to get this amazing New York montage, like that begins the film with the song "New York, New York." And they got shots of the Brooklyn Bridge, Chinatown, the Statue of Liberty, Central Park, Rockefeller Center, and more during this montage. And yeah, like we said, it was an innovation to shoot on location, and it was an innovation to use the quick cuts that they made. And location shooting was kind of made more difficult for them because Frank Sinatra was so freaking popular at the time. He would just get mobbed by young girls, especially. Kelly told American Film Magazine in 1979 that Sinatra was, quote, as hard to hide as the Statue of Liberty. He was always being mobbed. And they couldn't take limos to location shots as a result. I guess that was the practice at the time. Instead, they crouched on the floor of taxis so people wouldn't see them. So we've talked a little bit about this, but like I think Sophia, you told us you really liked the montage. Your husband appreciated it. Sybil, how did it strike you? You are a fellow montage lover.
Yeah, I do. I love a good montage. I think this is a really good montage. I do think that I have no idea what space-time continuum they live in to get to the places that they're getting and the time in which they got. So that was like, I was like, wow, back then it was so much faster to get places. Obviously they had like portals and tunnels.
I literally think they were making a joke about it, right? Because like the next time after the montage, it says 9:30 a.m. and like Sinatra's like, well, where do we go next? I feel like that was almost like a purposeful like joke. Don't you think?
Yeah. Yes.
I have no idea, but he also says at that point, he's like, we're going to go to the history museum or something. And he's like, and then 15 minutes later, he's like, we're going to go somewhere else. And I'm like, right on. Right on.
Yeah, his whole tour is like 15-minute intervals of like the cloisters, the Museum of Modern Art.
Yes.
Like everything is like 15 minutes, and somehow that includes the travel time. Yeah.
So we know what he's going to be like in bed, and he's definitely a
Oh,
15-minute man.
oh no.
But I did really love this montage, and I really like the use of the real New York City stuff. I
Mhm.
wish that they were, and now that I know that it rained, it makes it a little more understandable. I really wish that they had more scenes of New York, because the places that were not real and were just like backgrounds stills that they were
Mhm.
standing in front of looked so much worse because of the
Mm.
reality of the real
Mhm.
locations.
Are you talking
Yeah.
about partly the Empire State Building or like?
There were a few of them that I was just like,
Okay. Okay.
oh,
Okay.
ah. Rockefeller Center,
Yeah.
if you look in the background, you can see
Yes.
hundreds of people, right?
Yes. Yes. I
Yes.
totally noticed that too. They were totally there watching them. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like, but it's Rockefeller Center, so you can totally leave those people. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yep. It's cool though. You're like, I'm watching the fans of Frank Sinatra. Like,
Yeah.
like,
It
there
really,
they
I mean, it
are.
really was. It was really cool. I mean, this was like doing these kind of like scenes for the first time when you're doing location stuff like that. I mean, that's so innovative and amazing.
Okay, so now we've got the men. We established their kind of personalities. As we mentioned, Frank Sinatra's character Chip is laser focused on sightseeing. He says, "I've never been any place but Peoria." But Gabe and Ozzy both want to meet women. Gabe is from Meadowville, Indiana, and Ozzy says he is from a place where all the women are covered in coal dust. So, like, this gets into a little bit more of the film as it goes on, but as long as there's no spoilers, is do you have a favorite of these male characters? Is there one that you respond to more, or find more attractive or relatable in any way?
I mean, I think it's clear that uh Gabe slash Gene Kelly's the hottie, the one that you're after and things like that. I don't understand what the Frank Sinatra character, like, is he supposed, they keep calling him kid and this
Yeah,
and that. Is
yeah.
he supposed to be like
He's
18 years
13, yeah,
old or
something like that. Yeah.
something?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Like so the funny thing about this character, right, is that Frank Sinatra's character in Anchors Away and in Take Me Out to the Ball Game was also being portrayed as a young juvenile guy who doesn't know much about women and sex.
he's like
Both are,
34, isn't he, or something, during filming?
I'm not sure how old he was at the time, but I'm just going to say that that was a type he was playing apparently in this era. So it's kind
Oh,
of interesting that way.
that is interesting and bonkers because he totally doesn't look 18. He looks like a grown man. And like, anyway.
So, well, who did you like? Like
I
out
mean,
of
I thought
them?
they were all fun. Like I
Yeah.
said, like I'd hang out with all of them. They're like a fun crew. I'd party with a lot of them. Would I
So
date any of them? No.
okay. So when I was a kid, I really was into Chip. And the funny thing is, like, I totally related to his desire to sightsee too. Like, maybe not in 15-minute increments, but like, that's how I am on trips a lot of times. I'm like, I need to plan things out and I need to know where I'm going to go. And like, yeah, I got to see some shit. So I understood, especially when I was a kid, and I wasn't like as sex focused, right? Like now, if I were choosing someone to date, it would not be Chip. It would definitely be Gabe, but come on. As a kid, I understood Chip deeply. I was like, yeah, we're on the same page here. So that we got our men established, and now they're going to encounter kind of the mission of the movie. So they're on the subway, and a man puts up a poster for Miss Turnstiles for June, Ivy Smith. The text under her picture reads, "She's a home loving girl, but she loves high society's whirl. She loves the army, but her heart belongs to the Navy. She's studying painting at the museums and dancing at Symphonic Hall." And then Gene Kelly is reading this out loud, and he says, "Gee, she's wonderful."
I love this montage. Like I love
Oh,
them. This is like a dancing montage essentially.
yeah.
Like, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It makes the ridiculousness so obvious of like this person who shouldn't actually be real. And then as we meet her more, she actually is all these things. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so Sybil's bringing up like while he's reading this, there's a dancing montage, and Gene Kelly is doing the narration over it, which is something we've seen him do in other films like Singing in the Rain as well. Yeah, so we're just seeing Ivy as like this perfect woman. Like in this narration, she has to have beauty and brains and talent. And in the home loving section, she's like ironing and like taking care of her husband. And it is like you said, it is like almost to an absurd degree, a little bit. Because
Yeah.
then she immediately goes to high society's whirl, and she's like in this dramatic gown and a fur, and she's got one of those like cigarettes, like with a cigarette holder on it and everything like that. So then she's like frail and flower like, but also an athlete. And she's performing like every athletic feat that anyone could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole sequence ends where she's like sitting on top of a pile of men that she's like boxed against and beaten up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I wanted to say also, I think this is such a great showcase for Vera Ellen's dancing, because you'll notice she doesn't really sing in this movie. She may be singing in one of the group numbers near the end, but other than that, she does not sing. But this is kind of disguised well by the fact that she's given this dance highlight number like right away in the film.
Yeah.
You know, she's still like quite a star in the movie.
Oh yeah, she's definitely a star in the movie, and this was one of my favorite sequences. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed this one. I just thought the ridiculousness was awesome.
And it's also the Leonard Bernstein music too, so
That's why it's so much better.
So the idea of Miss Turnstiles was actually based in reality, which I found out while doing research. So there was a program that ran from 1941 to 1976 where the New York Transit Authority selected women to serve as Miss Subways, which I gotta say, Miss Turnstiles is a much better name, especially now that Subway's like a fucking like Subway sandwich chain. Anyway, there were women that they chose for this role of Miss Subways, and they put their posters with descriptions up throughout the subway system. And like they weren't quite like this description, like sometimes they were, but they would often include the women's career ambitions. Some of the ones I saw had their like measurements, like, you know,
Good grief.
super fun. But like sometimes they would be like during World War II, apparently some of the women's ambitions were quite like feminist and progressive, like they would want to be a doctor or something. Like, so it was kind of a cool thing for women to see other women who had these ambitions for themselves. And the Miss Subways was one of the first integrated beauty pageants. There was a Black Miss Subways in 1948 and an Asian American winner in 1949. So I thought that was super interesting. And in 1998, ahead of the revival of On the Town, they had a Miss Subways reunion, which was attended by many of the Miss Subways, as well as On the Town writers Comden and Green and Sona Osato, who originally played Miss Turnstiles on Broadway, who then gave a sash to Ty Jimenez, who played her in the 1998 revival. So that's kind of cool, I thought.
Yeah. Did they win anything? Did you find it like they're like free subwaying for a month or something?
You know, I did not like read anything about that. So it might have just been the prestige, or maybe the modeling agency would take them on. I'm not sure, because the guy who started it was running a modeling agency. So maybe some of them had ambitions in that, you know, area. They would show up sometimes to do like, at the openings of new subway lines and things, or subway stops. So maybe they got paid for appearances, but I didn't really read much about that. So
all right, that's okay.
Yeah. There's some good articles I'll link to in the show notes, though, if you want to see pictures of some of the real Miss Subways that existed. All right, so let's see. So after the montage of Miss Turnstiles, Gabe takes the poster down, and getting off the subway, he announces that he wants to meet her. Frank Sinatra tells him the odds are basically impossible, when of course they like look right up and there she is, like being photographed for a publicity photo. And Gabe is actually brought into that publicity photo by the photographer, but he's just like sitting there and he just like can't really say much to her. And then she runs off and gets onto the subway. Once again, in a city of millions of people, she's lost to him, but he makes it his mission that he's going to find her today. And no matter what it takes, and he's going to go on a date with her.
Like when I watched him in this scene, I was like, I literally like got like the heart palpitations. He did such a good job acting this that I was like, I know exactly how you feel because I've been there.
Oh.
His like awestruckness, I'm like, totally. And you don't think it's going to be you until it is that moment, and you're like, oh God.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hate, this means nothing, but we're talking about the subway a little bit, and the scene where they first get down into the subway and they ask somebody for directions is my favorite part of the whole film.
So New York.
So New York, and it's so funny. They're like, hey, how do we get uptown? And the guy's like, well, and then the train goes by and they can't hear a damn thing, and he's like, that's how you do it. And they're like, okay. And then they ask somebody else, and he's like, well, you could. And then the train goes by and they can't hear it. But the fact that everyone will give you different directions to get to the same place is 100% true. And that you can't hear anything. Oh man, it was like, it's home. Oh wow, that's it.
That's awesome.
Perfectly
That's awesome.
Captured the city that little moment.
I'm really glad that worked for you. I'm really happy.
Totally worked for me.
So they get out of the subway now, and they're going to go in pursuit of Ivy. They're going to try to get a cab and meet her at the next stop. They end up in the cab of Brunhilde Esterhazy, Hildy for short, and she immediately takes a fancy to Chip. She doesn't even look at Gene Kelly. She's just like, nope, I want this guy.
Oh, blue eyes. How could you?
And they sort of deal with the fact that she's driving the cab because during the war, this was pretty common. He says, what are you doing driving a cab? The war's over. And then she says, I never give up anything I like. So, and then Hildy, like further making sure that we know that Chip is special to her. She says, I've been waiting for you all my life. I knew you the minute I saw you. You're for me. I like your face. It's open. Nothing in it. The kind of face I could fall into. Kiss me. Like this woman operates fast. Like she wants Chip. Yeah,
she does. She operates real fast. She's like, I fell in love in a second.
Yep.
And I don't even know why. I just feel you in my soul.
And Chip is like not like so into this. He's basically doing it for Gabe's sake at this point. So she lets the guys off at Columbus Circle where they run right past Ivy into the subway. But then they come back up and Hildy is pursuing them with her cab, like reversing and going forward and trying to get them into her taxi. And they do get into the taxi. And their new idea is that they are going to find museums because it said that Ivy is studying painting at the museums. This is basically an excuse to get them to this anthropology museum where we have the Modern Man song number. And this character, the character of Claire and Ozzy were similar in Broadway. She was an anthropology student. He did resemble some kind of caveman, but they did not have this song. This was not a Leonard Bernstein song. But
this song is when I wanted to die.
Okay.
Like in a bad way or a good way?
I know, in a bad way. Like I fast forwarded it as much as I could while still watching, and it was still too long. Even in fast forward.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to play a clip of the song first. Okay. Then we'll discuss it, but I wanted to add one more comment before we get to the song too. So the reason we go into the song is that Ann Miller's character, Claire, notices that Ozzy looks like this statue of Pithecanthropus erectus. She looks at him and she's so excited that she looks like this statue. And he then starts kind of going after her. She initially rebuffs him and says that she's only interested in him scientifically. And then she said she started studying anthropology to distract herself from chasing men. And he asked, did it work? And she said, almost completely. And she kisses him. So it's like the setup that this character, Claire, was kind of I don't know, for lack of a better word, kind of a slut, kind of promiscuous. And she was studying anthropology and now she's irresistibly drawn to Ozzy. I thought that was kind of interesting as a setup for this female character.
Yeah, I agree.
We have now two female characters in a row who are both very sexually assertive and into men, and that's not viewed as a bad thing.
You don't often see this for chicks. They're all more like Miss Turnstile, where she'd be like, I mean, I'm just like a dancer and a homemaker and da da da. And I can't wait to just continue to be virginal. And these other chicks are like, dude,
yeah,
let's find some hotties, and they're gonna leave again, and that's great.
Again, yeah. I'm not sure if we're meant to think it's totally unromantic, but yeah. I think we'll talk about that when we get to the end. But yeah.
All right.
But okay, I want to play now though a bit of the song "Modern Man," which Sybil found terrible, and which I really like the actual singing and the dancing. There's aspects of this that we'll talk about that are not great, but the actual song, the actual dancing, dug it. So I'm gonna play it, and then we'll talk about it.
Modern man is not for me, the movie star and Dapper Dan. Give me the healthy Joe from ages ago, a prehistoric man. What has Gable got for me, or Mrs. Johnson's blonde boy Van? I want a happy ape with no English drape, a prehistoric man. Top hats, bow ties, he simply wore no ties. Bare skin, bare skin. He just sat around in nothing but bare skin. I really love bare skin. Some guys care a lot for me, but my excitement they can't fan. Because I still await my primitive mate. We've had a date since the world began. My prehistoric man.
All right, I'm not going to keep playing it,
Okay.
but there's a lot more like sexual. There's a lot more like sexual innuendos in it. I really like
Mhm.
tom toms, and she's shaking her breasts.
Mhm.
I love self expression when she kind of means some kind of sexual meaning behind that. Like I love all the innuendos in this. I love when she's like, "I really love bearskin." I have to admit, it wasn't until this year that I realized it was a play on words, and she was talking about BARE skin as well.
She says it 3 times. That's how important this was.
I
Three
Yeah.
know,
times.
but I watched it when I was a little kid so many times when I was innocent, right? And so I was like, oh,
Right.
it's a bear. It's bearskin, right? And it was only this year that I'm like, oh, yeah, fuck, she's saying bear skin.
I love those moments when you watch it with a different like perspective. You're like, oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Sybil, is it the song itself you object to? Is it the like today
Okay.
very problematic like use of all
No,
the
I have nothing. Okay, so once again, knowing my rules about why you have music in musicals.
Okay.
Okay. To progress the plot in a place that needs to be sped up, the song ain't fast. It has no importance. And or two, to like share something that's so emotional or has so much meaning that you cannot say it in regular words.
I think I would argue the purpose of this scene is to show why she likes Ozzy, because otherwise I would have no idea. She's saying that he is like just like very basic dude. He just wants sex. He's not analytical. That's the kind of guy she wants. And like the dance together is kind of the only way that we know that these two are hooking up. They don't really get talk scenes later in the movie. This is their love scene. This is like what passes for their love scene. Also, I would say I don't need a reason to see Ann Miller the dance in that dress. She is
Holy shit.
fine as fuck. And her
Yep.
costume is amazing, and her legs
Yep.
are amazing, and she's a good dancer and good singer.
Yeah. I think the song is totally stupid. They could have done a better song and a better job like showing how she's into men and with wants to be with Ozzy. And yes, so many problematic playing with artifacts of the different societies.
Oh yeah,
And
all these societies are in the same room too, which
Yeah,
is
all of them in the same
yeah.
room. This is the smallest giant museum in the world.
Ancient
Right?
and modern, yeah. And then the war.
And you're allowed to touch all of them, by the way. Nobody has a problem with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
as a kid, that was amazing though. As a kid, that's exactly what you want the museum to be. So I think that's part of why I responded to it as a young kid. Anyway, I don't mean to interrupt you, Sophia. Keep going.
No, but definitely Ann Miller in that dress, which is so beautiful. It's a green dress with black and white checked collar and lining. And so it's just a dress when she's, talking about anthropology. But as she dances, there's buttons all up and down, from the neckline to the hemline. And as she dances, those buttons come open and you see this green bodysuit under her skirt and her, black stockings while she's dancing. That number, it's hard to get through because of the stupid lyrics and like it's problematic things. But if you can watch for her dancing, 100% worth it. That ending, she does this amazing turning footwork thing. I can't say enough about it. Ann Miller.
And her voice is so rich. I didn't think the lyrics were stupid. I liked them, so I enjoyed them.
Corny.
And I think it's interesting because it's like this whole song is like kind of it's a song kind of contemplating like what is a man, like what makes a man. Like she lists all these kind of icons of the time who are more like sophisticated, right? And like dressing up and like analysis, like getting psychoanalyzed was like becoming more of a thing and like being really cerebral. And it's kind of this tension about what do we want a man to be in society. So whatever you might think of the message she's portraying there, I think it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting way of looking at what like people were thinking about at that time. So yeah, as we mentioned, there is I don't even know if you would call it cultural appropriation because it's probably not. Nothing's really super accurate, but it's
none
like,
of it's accurate. I mean, there's definitely like like at one point he pulls her by her hair, but that's just also just like a caveman kind of like
they're making
ideal,
fun of it. Yeah,
right. Like none of that really offended me. I was just like,
I think
wow.
what could potentially offend some people though is like they're conflating like sort of native artifacts from around the world with like prehistoric man, right? Like they're like saying this is exactly the same thing, and they're kind of like, you heard this probably in the trailer where they're like, ooh, they're making like weird tribal noises or something like that. Like I don't know. So definitely it is a product of its time on that level. Yeah. Okay, so after this dance sequence, Ozzy kind of gets clumsy and he knocks over this dinosaur skeleton that we heard earlier in the sequence had taken 20 years to build. And they run away from the museum, but cops somehow know who they are and are alerted to the damage. And for some reason, the New York City cops have nothing better to do than chase after these people for destroying a dinosaur skeleton. The actual prop skeleton was made of corrugated paper, 238 different pieces, and they were all connected by a wire so it could be collapsed and reassembled easily. But apparently it only took one take, so all that work was not necessarily needed, but I guess better safe than sorry.
True that.
Okay, cool. And now we have from 12 p.m. on the bottom of the screen to 1:30 p.m. a museum visit montage.
Yes. I love a montage. I love a good use of a montage. I felt that this was of montages a little weak, but it got the job done. Yeah.
This was more like just a montage that was there for convenience's sake. It wasn't really much to see in it. So yeah. Okay, and now like Hildy's kind of sick of all this like museum visiting, and she initiates a conversation about they will cover more ground if they split up. And Ozzy and Claire like this plan as well. I think it's pretty much implied that they're going to go and have sex, and Hildy's trying to get Chip to go have sex, or maybe not have sex, maybe make out.
They want to get alone with their men is what's happening here.
Yeah,
100%.
Chip is still really naive and thinks that he's going to go sightseeing with Hildy. And this leads to, I know we have a lot of clips in a row right now, so I'm sorry about that, listeners, but this leads to my favorite song in the movie, which was also in the original musical, Come Up to My Place. So I'm going to play just a little clip of this.
Well, which way do we go? The way of all flesh, Junior. The way of all flesh.
Well, I guess we pulled that off.
Yeah, I'm glad we're alone.
I'm glad you're glad. It's about time.
Well, where we go first?
Huh?
Well, now that we're alone, you can take me on that sightseeing tour of the city.
Oh, I was afraid you'd remember that. Okay, quick tour of the city, then up to my place.
Oh, no, then we got to go looking for Gaby's girl.
No, then up to my place. Where do you want to go first?
Well, my grandpa told me, Chip, my boy, there'll come a time when you leave home. If you should ever hit New York, be sure to see the Hippodrome.
The Hippodrome?
Yeah, the Hippodrome.
Did I hear right? Did you say the Hippodrome?
Yes, you heard right. Yes, I said the Hey, what did you stop for?
It ain't there anymore. They tore it down, you know, a dozen years ago.
I wanted to see the Hippodrome.
What year is that guidebook anyway?
1905.
1905? No wonder. Don't you realize a big city like this changes all the time? But there's one thing that doesn't change, kid. Come up to my place.
No. My grandpa saw the girly shows and told me of one special pearl. He said the hottest show in town was called the Florodora Girl.
Florodora Girl?
Yeah, the Florodora Girl.
Did I dig that? Was that Florodora Girl?
Yes, you dug that. That was Florodora. What stop for did you hay?
You may not see that play. That famous girly show closed 40 years ago. Come up to my place.
No.
I still love this song. I love this song
Do
so
you?
much.
Oh, God.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, I love it so much. The verbal, it's so dynamic. It's so fast. It's so quick. It's so clever. It's like, and their interplay with each other, the way they're reacting with each other and acting against each other. Like this song, we did these musical reviews in Busan when I was living there, and I didn't direct them. I was just acting in some of them. And I was like begging them to use this as one of the songs in the musical review. I really wanted to play Hildy. It's like, seriously, when I was more ambitious about this podcast, like series, I was thinking, oh, we'll do a bunch of karaoke versions of these and put them into the podcast. Right. But like, it just didn't come together. Like, but I would have totally loved to play Hildy. Like, I still want to play her someday, maybe if I can. So really, we just don't feel it?
No. I couldn't take it.
Why?
I couldn't take the, did you say the Hippodrome? Yes, I said the Hippodrome, and on and on and on and on. I'm like, man, again, if we're talking about them like having their scene together, I just feel like it could have been better. And why do they make her sound like so
Nasally.
shrill. Yeah,
Yeah.
like what's up with that? I like the way she totally carries herself against Sinatra, but even then, like, you're gonna have Sinatra sing, why?
Well, he
is
sings
it
another
this
song
voice?
later, but this is the Leonard Bernstein song. This is from the original musical.
Sorry, Leonard.
Yeah, I mean, they're not
Wasn't
all
feeling
winners.
this one.
Oh my God. Okay, I don't even know what's wrong with you two. Okay, this is what, like, I rarely tell people their opinions are wrong because I believe we all have, in this case, I think you're both wrong. I love this
All right.
song so
It's
much.
cool, cool.
It's
It's
clever,
fine.
and I do feel it moves the plot forward.
Ready? It 100%. This one serves all the things it's supposed to serve. It moves the plot along. You learn about character development, and she gets him up to her room, which is the point, right? Up to her place, which is the point. So this actually, for a musical number, does the things that it's supposed to do. I'm just not saying it's a strong musical number.
All right. I loved singing this when I was a kid. Like, I would sing along to it, like both parts. But mostly I liked Hildy. I loved Hildy. When I was a kid, I really responded to Hildy. And I really responded to, like, assertive females in general in movies and also music. Like, this was like the Madonna era, right? So, like, I grew up with, like, this, like, vision of women as being sexually assertive. And Hildy was part of that. Like, Hildy was definitely formative for me. And Betty Garrett also played a similar character in both Take Me Out to the Ball Game and Neptune's Daughter, too. So she, like Sinatra, had been typecast. She was the aggressive one. He was the kind of shy one. So that was their type. They do go back to Hildy's place. And in this scene, we get to see, like, Hildy and Chip are starting to make out on the couch when Hildy's roommate, Lucy Shmeeler, comes in, and she is played by Alice Pierce. And when I was younger, I really didn't like this character. I didn't like them kind of making fun of her for being kind of like, I don't know, not as attractive and like having a weird voice. But like this time when I was watching it again, I also watched another movie she was in, Alice Pierce, The Belle of New York, where she's with Vera Ellen in that one. And like her comedy is very similar in that one. Like it's treated a little more gently, I think. But like I really appreciate her chops as an actress. I thought she did a great job playing this character. And I don't know. It felt a little less bad to me than it did when I was a kid for some reason. I don't know why. What do you guys make of Lucy Shmeeler?
I thought she was actually fantastic. I loved, like, for what she had to do, that she, like, has to be, like, sitting around and being like, I am completely oblivious to the fact that you have a man up here, and apparently we share a bedroom, so I can't be in it at the same time you are.
Yeah, and she's like homesick and she's sneezing all the time as like part of the gag. Yeah.
And she wants to do like some kind of nasal lavage or something. And she's like so unsexy. What chick does that in front of a dude anyways? Like a dude you don't know. There is so much, but she like makes it like I laughed really hard at this point because I was like, you sold this to me.
Nice. Yeah, I thought Alice Pierce is when I saw more work by her, I was like, okay, yeah, she's got her thing she does, and I like it.
Right.
I read that she was the original Broadway Lucy Shmeeler.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, that shrill voice, it's like, why do all these women have to have these like...
Because it was a trope of the time.
That's supposed to be funny.
I think
you're right.
It was in some ways Betty Garrett's singing voice, though, to be honest. Like, I think Betty Garrett's voice is a little bit like that. I don't know.
From the other films?
Yeah, I feel like that might be sort of her voice, or maybe she's more of a comic singer. So I don't know.
I see.
I don't know. But anyway, Hildy does get Lucy to leave the house to go to a movie theater, and make everybody at the movie theater sick. And she and Chip start making out again. So there you go.
I do like that you put in here that about the bedroom, because that's the first thing I noticed was that I'm like, so they're roommates obviously, but does that mean that they both sleep in the same bedroom? Well, it is New York.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible they both are like, we have 4 more people in that room too. They're just not home.
Right. Okay, so now we cut over to Symphonic Hall where Gabe finally ends up finding Ivy again. Initially, we just see Ivy practicing ballet with her instructor, Madame Diliofsky, who is... I never noticed when I was a kid either that this woman is drinking alcohol, like, while she's teaching her. It just, like, went over my head.
Hidden alcohol. Alcohol.
Yep. And through Ivy's, like, exposition-y conversation with Madame Diliofsky, we find out that Ivy is from the same hometown as Gabe, Meadowville, Indiana. And she's trying to hide from her parents that she is working as a cooch dancer at night. So all I could find on cooch dancer on the internet The Merriam-Webster dictionary says it is a dance performed by women that was once common in carnivals and fairs and marked by a sinuous and often suggestive twisting and shaking of the torso and limbs, which we will see this later in the movie. So Gabe finds Ivy then, and at first he kind of tries to nag her, like for lack of any other better term. He said, like, they were nagging chicks in the 40s, man. He said, I thought I'd give some lucky little chick a break. If you play your cards right, it could be you. And she is not going for that shit at all. She like says, go away, you sailor, you. And then he decides that he's going to be honest. And he tells her that he's been looking for her all day and tells her he's just like this like small town dude from Meadowville. And he knows that a native New Yorker like her wouldn't be interested in him. And this gets her attention because not only like is she flattered that he was looking for her all day, but she's in fact not a native New Yorker. She is also from Meadowville, and he's perceiving her as this like glamorous, sophisticated celebrity. Did you guys buy her being into him?
Yeah. I think she appreciates when he's like finally honest with her and not like throwing her some bullshit lines of play your cards right. It could be you. I like that she stands up for herself. She's like, get out of here. And yeah, that he's from Meadowville. If Meadowville is so damn small,
but it's 18,000 people. It's 18,000 people though. So I thought of this too. If it's so small, why wouldn't he know her already? But it's but think about Lake Geneva's 5,000 some people, right? I didn't know everybody in Lake Geneva. There were different high schools. So 18,000 is like 3 times as big. So
what do you mean there were different high schools? There was one high school.
Well,
and
okay,
then if you
there were different
in Geneva.
Yeah, but there were people who sort of live near Geneva. You know what I'm saying now? There's one high school in Lake Geneva, but like the surrounding areas, maybe together, there were different high schools, right? Right. 18,000 people, I could buy them not knowing each other. Plus, there's probably an age difference, maybe. So
obviously, and there's a little over 8,000 people now in our hometown.
Oh, okay. When I was growing up, there were 5,000. So.
I know, same. But at one point, the signs changed, and all of a sudden, there were 8,000 people. So
what the hell?
I know.
Right. Okay. Not 18,000 yet, though.
No.
So now I'm going to play just a little bit like from their song, just because I couldn't find really clips of like just Gene Kelly talking and like Vera Ellen just talking. So for lack of anything better, because most of the time they're dancing, I'm going to play this song, which was not my favorite song, put it that way. But we're going to play just a little.
Well, tell me more about this place, Meadowville.
You really want to hear about it?
Yes.
Well, there's not much to tell about my hometown. Life is easy and the tempo slow. But if you really want to find what's in it, you'll learn in a minute all you have to know. Let's go. Come walking with me. I want you to see our main street. You'll know the whole town by just walking down our main street. There's the corner where the boys hang out. As each girl goes by, they rate her, whistle, and try to date her later. Baby, are you going steady?
All right, so you get the general idea. This is like a small town nostalgia song. And what's interesting about this is that like the Red Hot and Blue book said that in the golden age of musicals, there were basically 2 strains of American musicals. There was one that was like the urban musical and one that was like the nostalgia for small towns and rural areas musical. And this is like injecting just a little bit of that rural small town musical into a urban musical. So I found that interesting. Like their characters kind of represent a small town, and then this number also does. What do you guys think of this number?
I liked this number.
Really? Okay.
I did. In this movie, there are so many just like love at first sight that seem ridiculous. But this one made it more realistic. They put them as something that they have in common. It was like a very adorable little love song between them, and it builds the characters. You learn a lot about the characters and who these 2 people are.
Sophia, any thoughts on it?
It was neither here nor there for me. I thought I didn't quite at one point I thought, I'm like, if you're gonna dance with Vera Ellen, why would you do such a simple dance? But
Yeah.
that was kind of the point, and it's a
Yeah.
sweet little number. And
To be fair, they dance like more later, but
they
yeah,
do
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But yeah, so for me, I always found this one to be kind of snoozeville. Like, even though Gene Kelly is super hot, like, and Vera Ellen is awesome, but like, I always found this one to be kind of boring. But and Gene Kelly actually said that it's one of his 2 disappointments with the film. He didn't feel like this one came alive. But yeah, I'll tell the other disappointment later. But Sybil, I appreciate what you say about it.
Yeah.
I do think that it does give them a commonality and definitely establishes their relationship as more than just I saw a pretty girl on a poster. So after this number, Madame Diliovska comes back and she's all like, or Diliovsky, I can't remember how to pronounce her name, whatever. She comes back and she's like, get out of here, sailor, blah, blah, blah. And like Vera Ellen's telling her she's going to go on a date with him that night. And they agree that they're going to meet at 8:30, but then they have to come back and be like, where are we meeting? Which I like, because some movies people say that they're going to meet at 8:30 and they never say where they're going to meet. But in this movie, we deal with this problem.
Nobody gives phone numbers either. They're just like, call me. Okay.
Yeah.
And they just leave. You're like, how are you going to know?
Exactly. So yeah, then they established they're going to meet on the top of the Empire State Building, and she says something like, "Isn't that awfully high?" And then he says, "It won't seem high to me. I'm in the clouds right now." And I just want to say that this dialogue is very similar to a piece of dialogue in Singing in the Rain. Before he sings Singing in the Rain, he's leaving Debbie Reynolds behind, and he says, "For me, the sun is shining everywhere, even though it's raining." So I was like, I see the Comden and Green signature there in their writing.
Nice.
And then we get the weird dance teacher for some reason threatening Ivy that she better get to work tonight at Coney Island or she won't get her fees. Like, is this woman like this with all her dance students? Is she like following them around?
So
bizarre.
Confused by who this lady is and what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it is very weird, Sybil. The more I think about it, this doesn't make much sense. But anyway, Ivy is given a deadline of 11:30. She better leave to go to Coney Island to do her cooch dancing. Now we are on the top of the Empire State Building, and we have first a scene that takes place between Chip and Hildy. Chip is at first sightseeing through a telescope, and he's enjoying telling Hildy about all the things he's seen. And then he says, "I should have come up here much earlier. I wasted my whole day away," which is exactly what you want to hear from a dude who might have just had sex with you, right?
Right.
Totally. I mean, he is really good with the ladies.
So Hildy's feeling rejected. Chip finally notices that she's feeling rejected. He throws his guidebook off the side of the building, probably killing somebody.
Killing everyone below.
Totally. I was like, no.
I'm glad we all thought that. I'm like, and there's a bunch of dead people now.
Fortunately, this was not filmed on the actual top of the Empire State Building, so nobody died. And then he sings with Hildy, his love song with Hildy, which is "You're Awful." And it's kind of this interesting wordplay song where he says, "You're awful," and she's upset, but then he says, "You're awful nice to look at, awful good to be with," things like that. And like, "You're nothing if not charming." So it's like she keeps getting a little offended and then being like, oh, he really means it in a good way. And that's the whole theme of the whole song. And then she sings verses like that at the end of the song too. So it's a duet. How about this song? How did this one strike you guys?
I like this song too. It was very corny and it felt like I mean it had like a lot of the feel of like I don't know like musicals of that era, right? It has that like, back and forth, and also I love the lyrics on this one. Somebody actually thought about the lyrics and what the lyrics were doing to make this couple, essentially, who is in my opinion not a couple yet, kind of maybe like show emotion towards each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you do get more of the Sinatra voice in this one. He gets to expand his singing a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sinatra really is wasted in this film.
I mean, then you watch Anchors Away and he's singing way too much. So, I mean, that's what I think.
I mean, I definitely want to say like this movie is 2 times more gay than Anchors Away, though.
Okay, you got to explain that. You can't just throw that out to the audience, Sybil.
So I wound up watching Anchors Away merely because if you look at the poster for this film, it has a huge slogan on it that says 2 times more gay than Anchors Away. And I was like, well, that's a film I gotta see. So, I mean, and I watched Anchors Away and I'm like, I don't know if On the Town is more gay, but I mean, maybe. Is it 2 times more gay? I don't know. I don't know.
Thank you, Sybil. Thank you. Yeah. We'll talk. I think you have that in your double feature, so we'll talk about it
Yeah,
a
I
little
do.
more later. But yeah, like I feel like Sinatra's not wasted. He's just not the main character. You know, like this is more about the dancing. This is more highlighting Gene Kelly and Vera Ellen's dancing.
Right.
I mean, the purpose is not necessarily to have the songs be a highlight, but I like the My Place song. I think he's fun in that one too. So
All right.
there you go. There we go. All right. And I like Hildy's costume in this sequence. She's got this little yellow jacket. She's got this yellow, white, and black striped dress. And then she has this like silver butterfly hair clip and these silver pins on her jacket. It's kind of a cute little outfit.
It's pretty, yeah.
I felt that the outfit was in some way, I love costuming, remember, is some way is supposed to mirror the fact that she's a cab driver.
100%.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's yellow. It's a yellow cab. Yeah.
And checkered and black and, yellow and black. And yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got Ann Miller comes in with her fabulous costume. She's got this off the shoulder red dress that she's wearing. Also great. And then Gabe arrives, but not with Ivy yet. And then we have this like super absurd scene. So how did the cops find them on top of the Empire State Building? I have no fucking idea. And then they're like hiding Ozzy from the cops by like dangling him over the side of the building. Okay?
I was waiting for him to go and kill some people too. So,
Jeez Louise.
Wait, what?
I was waiting for them to drop him to go kill some people too.
I got you. And then like, okay, the professor's with them, I think. How would he not notice Ann Miller? Because like she's always at the museum. And then like the boss of the cab driver's there, and how would he not notice her just because she has glasses on? Like, what the fuck is going on with
Clark
this
Kent
scene?
style. This whole scene is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And not needed in any way.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's one of those weird like comic slapsticky scenes. It's even got one of those scenes where like all the people stick their heads around the side of a building and they're all lined up perfectly.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
How do people even do that? I want to do that someday. It looks like so much fun. Anyway, the cops arrive. We have this whole thing. And then that turns into nothing. And then Ivy actually does show up. And I like this part too. The other girls talk to each other. They know that Miss Turnstiles isn't a big deal, but they kind of make this little agreement to pretend that she is for the guys' sakes.
Also for her sake. I think that they also did it for Ivy's sake as well, to like make her like important and somebody.
And let me put in too that these girls talking together is probably the only reason this movie might. Oh wait, no, it passes the Bechdel test when she talks to Madame Diliovsky too. Okay, so technically this movie passes the Bechdel test.
That awesome conversation.
Well, I mean, there are movies that don't pass the Bechdel test getting made in the last 10 years, so that's all I got to say about it. Like, all right, so then we get Ivy arrives and we get the On the Town number, which was again not in the original musical. And it's got this like crazy about the Navy part stuck in the middle of it, where the guys are pretending that they really miss being on the boat. And I feel like World War II was already over, so why was this in there? What do you guys think?
I don't know. I think
it's a weird number. Yeah. I was like, nope. And I'm like, I just need to get to the end of this at this point. Like, let's just get there.
Yeah, I guess I don't like the idea of them. They're having the best time with their, they're all together now. They're having fun, but they're dreaming about being back on the boat. It's like, that seems silly.
I wonder if this is like for the Navy's sake that they let them use the boat or some shit. You know what I mean? And like maybe they're being like,
maybe. You've only been off the boat. You have 24 hours. That's it. You're not being like, I can't wait to be back on that boat again for like, 3 months.
I guess it could have been a joke too, like a parody of really liking being in the Navy. Like, I don't know, something like that. Because he says he really likes the chow. I don't think anyone I've ever heard of from the military was like, oh, the food is good. So maybe it's meant to be tongue in cheek too.
I suppose.
I don't know. Anyway, it's weird. I didn't like that part, but the on the town part itself, I like.
No, I felt it was really I thought it was just really weak. I actually thought it was just thrown in there to like get a song in named by the musical.
Yeah, but I like they're all like dancing together finally. I like that. I like the completion of them all being together, like dancing arm in arm. I dig it. I think it has good energy.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, I can get behind that too.
And you get to see the ladies in 3 different costumes dancing together. I always like a movie where you get like 3 different costumes from women that are really nice looking.
Yes, all their dresses are very pretty.
I agree. Costuming on this was very good period for all of the women. Like they had really good costumes.
All right, so now we're going to begin the spoiler section of the movie. So if you do not want the ending spoiled for you, please go and watch On the Town and come back to us. And if you don't care, hang out with us now. Okay, so they all go night clubbing. And the little time scroll says 9:30. They're at a club, and Gabe tries to get into the club using Miss Turnstiles' name as, their entrance. And of course, the club guy has not heard of her. So Claire goes and bribes a waiter to get them a table and make a fuss about Ivy. And then eventually has them send over champagne, which I thought that was really a sweet character touch for Claire to do.
Totally. Also, I want to say that the table they're given is still the worst table.
Yes.
Yep.
It's literally like it is the worst table that you can give somebody intentionally. So it's by the kitchen door where the kitchen door bangs you. And like they don't talk about it, but it's 100% like in the movie for a reason. To be like, I mean, thanks for the tip and all, but you're still nobody. So you get by the bathroom.
Yeah, and like the people dancing in the floor show, like they're spinning this woman and they literally have to duck because she's like spinning over their heads. Yes.
Yeah, they're right by the band, right up by the band, the kitchen door swinging open. It's the exit and entrance for the dancers. It's the worst spot.
Yes. Yeah. And I appreciated the direction on that very much.
Yeah. But the guys are so happy and like
that's right. Yep. And they don't notice.
And they make other kind of jokes about New York clubbing, I noticed too. Like they have these beers that look like they're just water, right?
all foam, all froth. Like no.
And then Chip's asking what other drinks they have, and the waiter's like listing off the super complicated sounding drink, which probably today doesn't sound complicated, but back in 1940s, I bet it was, with all these weird.
He's supposed to just be like Tom Collins, right? He's supposed to like give easy beverages, but like they're all very complicated, and he's like, whoa, mixologist.
Hildy's like, he'll have a beer. It was pretty cute. I love that comment. She's hilarious.
And then they've got one more like joke they make about the nightclub. They go to a couple different nightclubs, and every nightclub has like a number at the end that's exactly the same, except they changed the name of the review. It's like, that's all there is, folks. So goodbye to you. We hope you enjoyed our little Copacabana review or something, right?
Okay, so wait, I think I missed something. Did they go to different clubs? I thought it was the same club. And they just had the same.
No.
Yeah.
They had the Copacabana review, the Dixieland review, and then the Shanghai review. And I'm pretty sure that they didn't put anybody in blackface or brownface.
No, I double checked. I checked real hard. I like slowed down.
Yeah.
I made the screen bigger because I was like, these are really black people, right?
Yeah. I'm always horrified. Like
really Asian
people. Same. I thought the same thing. I was like, wait a minute. And I'm like, I think we're good.
We're solid. I double checked. We're good.
Yeah. I think we made it through a whole movie from the 1940s without somebody doing that. So thank God. Yeah.
Well, and now that I know specifically that this was such a diverse cast on stage, I can see why also maybe you might have add some diversity here.
Yeah. It is New York, for God's sake. I mean,
And Gene Kelly was also like a pretty like progressive dude, like apparently. Like he was like hanging out with like black actors in real life. Like he and his brother in their vaudeville days actually worked on the Cab Calloway's show. And Lena Horne was one of like the regular visitors to his house. So he was a good dude for his era. So
cool.
So yeah, we didn't have like anything terrible there, which is good because I've seen movies from exactly the same year that have just cringy things.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So we see Gabe and Ivy are finally left alone at the table. They're talking together. They're talking about how they don't, they don't want to get involved because it's only one day, but then they obviously are really into each other. They get bumped by the door, and this causes Gabe to lean in and kiss her. And then later he tells Ivy that he does want to see her again. This isn't just a one-day thing. Then, though, when he's telling her this, Ivy realizes it's 11:30 and she has to go to Coney Island. And then Gabe at the same time gets the fucking knuckleheaded idea that he's going to go and show Ivy off to these like other Navy dudes. He leaves her for a minute while she's trying to talk to him, and she runs off to Coney Island. And this will come in.
She can apparently get to in 3 seconds. Okay.
and leave a note.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this comes to be a factor later, though, that he's trying to brag to these Navy dudes. I don't love this about his character that he's trying to show off Ivy like a trophy.
But I could totally believe that he would.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I like even just like a nice dude would just be like, hey, buddies, like, look, I got this really nice chick, and like she's hot.
Yeah. Anyway, it's like it's his most dude-like behavior probably that he engages in this movie. So Ivy runs off, and the other guys and girls are like, well, let's keep the night going. And they decide they're going to get a girl for Gabe. And like Ozzy's like, ask Claire, do you know any girls? And she says, I don't know any girls.
Yeah. It's hilarious. You're like,
It's this little nod back to her saying that she was running after guys before she got into anthropology. And then I don't know why Hildy would decide that bringing Lucy out would be a great idea. I don't know. I mean, it's like she had to know that Lucy was not going to make a good impression.
No,
I don't know.
Lucy's a
She's fucking
homebody.
sick.
Right, she's a homebody. She doesn't feel good. Let her be home, people.
But instead, Lucy shows up, and she's sneezing when she shows up. Gabe is like obviously depressed. They don't like. Okay, this is the part that I didn't like when I was a kid because I was like,
Right.
I
I
identified
still
more.
don't like it.
I identified more as kind of like an ugly girl when I was growing up. Like I thought of myself because people called me ugly, so I was like, I'm definitely a Lucy here, right? And would I get treated like this? And like, I didn't want people to like be, condescending to me, right? He doesn't actually like to her face say anything mean. He's obviously depressed though. I think later in the movie he does like act a little nicer to her, but it's not great. Like there's jokes about how he's hiding her face from these Navy guys who come back to see his date, right?
Yeah.
And like I didn't love it.
I still don't like it.
No,
I still
neither.
don't
And
like it.
let's be honest, she's not fucking ugly either.
She's not fucking ugly. She's got a little weird voice and she's got a cold, so
I think they also make her personality not super appealing though. She doesn't have like great like kind of social skills. She doesn't read the room very well.
it's fine. But I don't like that making like her
Yeah.
the butt of the joke. It still doesn't play for me because I
Yeah.
will always feel like that girl.
Oh.
Always. No, I'm kidding. Not that dramatic. But I certainly, often felt like the not desirable girl at the table.
Yeah.
So
it reminds me of the movie Dogfight a little bit when I think about it. With Lily Taylor and River Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a
Oh.
double feature for just this section of the movie. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
But anyway, Gabe kind of is depressed after this interaction. He goes off to sit by himself at a bar. And then they do the number You Can Count on Me, where the guys and the girls try to cheer him up. And Lucy is part of this number. And her part of the number is a little weird. Like she's trying to be like super passionate with Gabe. But she's a great performer. Alice Pierce is a great performer in this section. And she's holding her own as a dancer too. I like this song. I think it's clever. I like the jokes. I like their camaraderie. I like this time I noticed that the Asian bartender in the background is totally digging it and smiling and laughing the whole time. What do you guys think about this number?
I thought it was cute. I liked it. I like this idea of, being friends and looked like they were having fun. I liked it.
I do too. I like this number as well. I think that it also like bonds the group together, which is like as friends and not just like people who like met and are like strangers.
Yeah.
I actually do like the lyrics of this as like I think that they're clever enough.
Many puns.
Yeah.
As the adding machine once said, you can count on me. Okay, so after this number, Gabe walks Lucy home, and the timestamp says 2:30, and he gives her kind of like a nice speech, like, I already found the girl for me before I met you. Sorry, I was a downer. You're going to find your guy. And he kisses her on the cheek. So at this point, he's nice to her, right? Like, I don't know.
I thought that was a nice departure.
I think if they hadn't had that, I wouldn't have liked the movie as much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got to give Lucy her respect.
Yeah.
All right. So any more to say about that, or should we move on to A Day in New York?
Go for A Day in New York.
Okay, so A Day in New York is what's called Sophia, you might know about this because you're a theater person. This is called a dream ballet section of a musical.
Sure.
Have you previously heard of this or studied this?
I guess.
Okay.
Like I can't recall at the moment, but yes. I feel like Oklahoma has one too, I think.
I don't know. I haven't seen Oklahoma, to be honest.
Let's talk about The Big Lebowski and how it has a dream ballet in it.
Oh, I guess it does.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, I mean, like dream ballets are a completely normal thing to express emotion that, once again, is not per se going to be able to be spoken about easily.
Yeah, it's basically just referring to an all dancing section of a musical that doesn't have singing, and it can reflect like the themes of a show. So there's a dream ballet in On the Town. There's a dream ballet, of course, in Singing in the Rain, the Broadway melody section. American in Paris's dream ballet is perfection, like so many of these in Kelly's films, but in other films as well. Anyway, this dream ballet section is filmed with Kelly and Vera Ellen, but then Gene Kelly made the decision to have substitute dancers for the other roles because he
Mhm.
didn't really have the time to train everybody else on ballet dancing. And he said later that he regretted it because audiences like weren't really thrilled that they were different actors. But for
Yeah.
me, it's like whatever. Like it's a dream. Like they can be different people. I'm okay with it.
But I feel like you're telling me Betty couldn't keep up or Anne?
Well,
Like maybe the guys couldn't, but
it's a different type of dancing though. Like when I watched it after thinking about that, I was like, okay, is this tap dance? Is this what they're usually doing? There's a lot of ballet moves, and like I don't know if it's the same skill set or not.
It was
Well-
his perfectionism that he was like, they're not going to be good enough, and I don't want to like
Right.
dumb any of this down either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably true too. Which I'm okay
Because
with Gene Kelly's
they could have done
perfectionism.
it. They could have held their chops. Would they have been like as good as maybe the dancers he put in? No, but it would have played differently.
it did take me out.
Oh, really?
Like,
Okay.
oh, yeah, as far as like that switch, I was like, oh, that's a bit of a bummer.
See, for me, like it kind of does almost the opposite because it shows me definitively that this is not part of the main plot. This is like his fantasy. For me,
okay.
it worked okay because yeah, it's like a dream. It doesn't have to be matching everything else.
I mean, I was fine with it. There was a second where I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." They chose not to use the dancers. I'm like, okay, but like I didn't care either way. But I did notice when it wasn't them.
Okay, yeah. So I really like though the part in there where he dances with Vera Ellen in kind of this red spotlight. I thought that part was quite sexy, quite good dancing between the two of them.
I'll tell you something. I noticed it twice in this film with Mr. Gene Kelly. It looks like he literally flies, but definitely in this dream he does it. I think when they're doing the On the Town song, and they're definitely in this sequence where he like is leaping up to a higher part of the stage. It's a leap up. He looks like he's flying. I'm like, wait a minute. Did he make any kind of like movement to like jump there? All of a sudden he's just like lifted off and then he lands on the upper platform. And I'm like, damn, that it kind of took my breath away. I'm like, he just flew. He just glided up on top. It was amazing. He's amazing.
I'll have to look for that the next time.
Yeah. Find it. You'd be like, he can fly.
Any more about the Dream Ballet, or should we progress to Coney Island?
Let's progress to Coney Island, baby.
So they are now after the Dream Ballet. They're in the bar again, and Gabe runs into Ivy's dance teacher, Madame Diliovsky, and she's like, he finds out from her where Ivy is. At the same time, the cops have again found them. And they start chasing Hildy and the cab all the way to Coney Island. And so we have this obligatory wacky chase scene in the movie.
Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, a chase scene. I thought it was kind of funny.
Okay.
I'm like, what this movie needs clearly to like keep it running is a chase scene.
It's a chase scene.
Right? Right to me. I was like, yeah, this is clearly what we're going like.
Yep.
And like they do the whole thing too. They run into like some fruit stand and they put the awning over them and they put out a sign that says shave and a haircut, and they actually play the shave and a haircut music. I'm like, what the fuck? It's so corny.
That's right. I forgot about that.
It's so corny. It's so corny. Anyway, they get to Coney Island and immediately pretty much Gabe sees Ivy on stage in her cooch dancing, which is like this vaguely Middle Eastern dance and costume thing going on, like a belly dance sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. The cops come. They all go to hide backstage. Gabe tells Ivy that he doesn't care like what she does. He just wanted to find her again. She says that she's from Meadowville. He's happy about this. They embrace. A lot of stuff happens, so we're just going to go through it quickly. And then, of course, to hide from the cops, everybody gets dressed up in these costumes, these like Middle Eastern dance costumes. And of course, there's a big joke about the guys like pretending to be women and one of the cops finding them attractive.
You have to have this. It's required for dudes to dress up like chicks in these movies at this time. Like it's just required.
So the whole like drag act gets like disrupted when Ozzy's pants fall down, and then we have like of course our comical chase through the backstage area, and the men eventually run into the back of the military police van and they are taken away. And then the cops come and they're going to arrest the women for speeding, stealing a taxi, destroying a dinosaur, and disturbing the peace. But now we have Hildy and Claire give these rousing speeches to the crowd. So for this, we're going to do some Every Rom Com theater. And Sophia, you're going to be Claire.
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to be Hildy. And Sybil, we're going to need you to be the professor. He's only got like one line here. And then we're all going to be the crowd. There's a crowd as well, okay?
Got it.
All right, I'm here for it. So
All
I'm
right.
professor. I get to say what?
Okay.
Okay.
So without
Ready?
further ado, we are now going to have Every Rom Com theater.
And your dinosaur. Why, Professor, you ought to feel proud about that dinosaur.
What?
You ought to feel proud that 3 sailors from the United States Navy got off the ship for one day. And what did they do? Were they thirsty for hard liquor? No, they were thirsty for culture. Were they running after girls? No, they came running to the museum to see your dinosaur. For months out at sea, they were dreaming about your dinosaur. Is it any wonder that seeing it face to face, overcome by emotion, that one of them fell against it and broke it a little? Why, I'll bet if that dinosaur could speak, he'd say what any public-spirited citizen would. For the Navy, any time.
Yay!
And the cab. We didn't steal it. It was my last fare for the day. And the biggest fare this cab company has ever had. $287.50. And why did I keep this fare all day, ladies and gentlemen? Because I know my duty toward the servicemen.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Woo!
There was this one. He was just a little fella. A skinny little runt. He kept pestering me and following me around. I couldn't shake him off. And finally, he kind of got under my skin. You would have done the same. He wanted to see the beautiful sights of our beautiful city of New York. And I showed him plenty. And what do you think these boys think now of our New York hospitality? Where's our civic pride? Why, we should have hugged them to our bosoms and said, boys, the town is yours.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you know it.
End scene.
So I 100% felt that this right here was where we needed a song.
Oh, really?
Right here was where we needed a song. Like this is where like you put a song. Because you have a lot, you have the culmination of a lot of stuff happening, right? You have all of his feelings and emotions, and you could have had a big freaking number with like all the people in the background being like, yeah, and the crowd like going crazy. Like I was like, how did they miss this opportunity when we had so many like useless songs in this film?
That's interesting because they did have a stage there even, and all those dancers that could have been backup dancers.
Oh my God.
Yeah, okay. I was like, I don't understand how this was missed, except maybe they were just running out of time.
Yeah, they needed to finish the show. But I like their rousing speeches. I like them. So the speech does work. The crowd eats it up. The cops end up dropping the charges, and they're taking up a collection. I don't know. Is it to pay for the cab? What is it for?
No, that's what I thought. Maybe for the cab.
Because clearly we can collect enough money on the streets for the dinosaur.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is there, but yeah, whatever. And they drive the girls to the Navy Yard to say goodbye. The boys and they find the guys just before they get on the ship. They all kiss each other. And I'm like, did they give each other their addresses, or are they going to see each other again? I want them. I think my headcanon is that they are going to see each other again.
I think the girls become fast friends, but the dudes, they never see them again.
No, I think they're going to see each other again.
Yeah, I totally make it out that they all see each other again.
I think Gabe and Ivy will last. I don't know about the other two, but yeah.
None of them are lasting.
Well, Gabe and Ivy are even from the same hometown.
Yeah, so definitely Gabe and Ivy. Definitely Gabe and Ivy.
Yeah, he's going to be able to find her again for sure. So we're romantic.
I like to think somehow they gave them their information.
Yeah. All right. So Sybil says no. Sybil vetoes it.
Sybil usually does though. Sybil has like no romantic bones in her body.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Sybil's here for the fun. She's here for the lols. It's good. It's good.
It's true. It's true.
All right. So, and then the dock worker, as we said, comes back with his song. He's still feeling like he's not out of bed yet. And a new bunch of soldiers rush out of the boat and start singing New York, New York, which gives it a great circular feeling. I really like the way it's wrapped.
I love that. I really do love that. I love that kind of the bookends situation to this.
All right. So now we're going to do our double feature recommendations. So for my double feature recommendations, 2 out of the 3 I'm choosing are the movies that Gene Kelly did with Judy Garland. And the other movie he did with Judy Garland, I'm saving for our episode of the music on the Music Man. So we're going to hear about all of them eventually. So the first one is For Me and My Gal, the first film he did in 1942. And I'm recommending this for a few reasons. One, it's also part of it is set during a wartime scenario, and it involves eventually the military, so it's thematically relevant. It was actually made in 1942, so it's more of a propaganda film in some ways, although it is set like in the pre-World War One and World War One era, but it's clearly speaking to the moment of World War Two. I think Judy Garland and Gene Kelly have just like amazing chemistry. Like if you think he has good chemistry in this movie, him and Garland just work together so well. Like they're emotional, their acting is so good, and then their dancing is and singing is also amazing. So if you haven't seen one of the Gene Kelly Judy Garland movies yet, check them out. I also think Gene Kelly is just really fucking sexy in this role. Mm-hmm. He's kind of a bad guy in some ways. He's a little bit of a heel. He's kind of good that way. And yeah, Judy Garland kind of like the question is she going to be able to reform him or not? And they play these vaudevillians who end up working together. And I just really dug it. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, but I did. And then my second double feature recommendation, this movie is not necessarily good, but it's also amazing. It's really hard to explain. It's The Pirate from 1948. It's directed by Vincent Minnelli. The cinematography is gorgeous. The colors are gorgeous. Gene Kelly is fucking gorgeous in this movie. He's playing an actor who pretends to be a pirate because Judy Garland's character has a thing for pirates. Okay, there's so much that's ridiculous about this movie. The plot is ridiculous. The fact that Judy Garland's playing a character named Manuela is ridiculous. The costumes are kind of ridiculous. Everything is over the top. It was kind of meant as a parody, but it wasn't really clear that it was meant as a parody. So it's just super campy though. There's a point in the movie where Gene Kelly's wearing these like cut off like shorts and like this fucking tank top and like an arm bracelet, like pretending to be a pirate, right? And like the censors almost didn't let his costume by because it was like too sexy.
Because he's got too much ass, that's why.
The thigh in this movie is like off the chart. Okay, but like Sybil, like I feel like you would enjoy this movie just because it's so weird, and it would make
I'm here for it. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, it would make an amazing double feature with the Pirate movie, which is one of the movies that only you and I have seen. So yeah, so The Pirate 1948, you got to see. It's just there was somebody found it on TikTok too. There's like a TikTok of like different scenes of Gene Kelly like doing sexy things in the movie. There's just one scene where he like is smoking a cigarette. He goes to kiss a girl, swallows the cigarette, and then he spits the cigarette back out when he's done kissing her.
I feel like I've seen that. Oh, funny.
It's so crazy. Okay, so that's my second one. And then my third double feature recommendation is An American in Paris from 1951. This is also a Vincent Minnelli film. Now, here's the thing about this movie. I don't love the plot. Okay, like it's got Gene Kelly's character. There's a perfectly good woman his own age he could be with, but he goes after this like really young girl for no apparent reason, played by Leslie Caron. I don't feel their chemistry, but there are 2 musical numbers in this movie that are amazing. I Got Rhythm, which he performs with a bunch of children, is such a great scene. He has such great chemistry with these kids. The dancing in that is so great. The singing, like the kids are clearly having an amazing time. Love that. Love that number so much. And then the Dream Ballet in An American in Paris is gorgeous. Like it's using these beautiful painted backdrops. It like really evokes Paris, and it's got the beautiful music as well, like the Gershwin music. And it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen put to film. And the dancing between him and Leslie Caron, who was a ballet dancer, is impeccable as well. The costumes are gorgeous. So great. And there's a reason it won all those Oscars. Again, don't 100% love the plot. I was actually kind of like really angry at the movie for a while, but it really won me over with those numbers. So, yeah.
So I chose Brigadoon. In no particular order here, friends. So Brigadoon from 1954. Okay, we did this when I was in college, so I have like fond memories of that. And again, I feel like stage to film stuff is kind of lost. There was some stylization that I didn't quite like, but overall, there's some songs that are really pretty. And I feel like I read that Gene Kelly really wanted to make it, more ballet, and he really worked on that angle for this film. It's a fun time. Then I love Singing in the Rain from 1952. Yeah, as we've said, this one is the one that seems to stand out and be the longtime favorite of the Gene Kelly. I love that, the story of like silent films are, leaving, and that silent actress trying to be a talkie actress, and her voice is just, it's the best. It's so funny.
I can't stand him.
Yes. See? The best. Some incredible dance numbers. Good Morning. That number's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Singing in the Rain.
Yeah,
so great.
We rewatched it the other night just like because I've seen it so many times I didn't really have to, but it's impeccable. I don't find there's nothing out of place in that whole film. Yeah.
Yeah. It's solid. And then I watched again, because I'm familiar with the stage production of Guys and Dolls. I'm like, well, let me check out the film production. And it was fine. I get I like Brando. I know it wasn't his. There was talk about like him not being a real singer and him having this part, blah blah blah. I don't care. I still like Brando, and I chose it to also see Sinatra again, and I like this Sky Masterson tough guy, and the Sally Brown, like Salvation Army good girl getting together. I love those plots. I love that like bad boy good girl storyline.
Nice.
Yep. It's a fun time.
So I picked In the Heights, the 2021 musical version, mostly because I feel that the same kind of like love of New York, the love of the city, is there, because In the Heights, the film really does show off the city. They did a really good job of that.
Nice.
So I picked that because I felt that one of the things that On the Town did was like show off this like love for the city. I think they did a good job. But I like both productions, both the movie and the theater production. I think both are great.
Nice. That's great.
So, and I actually think In the Heights is a better musical than Hamilton. I know.
Okay.
Crazy, but I think it's true. Then I have Anchors Away because I really just wanted to watch Anchors Away based on the fact that I saw On the Town and I saw the poster.
Yeah.
And I like Anchors Away. Okay. Like I didn't like hate it. It was fun. I will not say that On the Town was 2 times more gay than Anchors Away, but I will say that watching them together, you can really have like a double header that you can really enjoy.
Sinatra playing such a similar character again too.
Yeah, it has the same kind of feel. The songs are kind of the same and campy. Like it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, and I picked finally The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, 1994, which I know sounds strange, but it's, to me, the kind of like production felt the same to me in the sense of like it's like people journeying to find something in discovery, and it takes place in like a finite amount of time, and I always felt that Priscilla, like it takes place on a small bus and you're just trying to get somewhere, and so it has that same kind of like frenetic, we have to get stuff done feel to it. I also think though the costumes in Priscilla are so much more overblown, they have the same color scheme and feel as On the Town.
Oh, cool.
So that is why I know they're a little bit different for the double headers, but that's what I would watch.
It still kind of mystifies me, but I'm glad that you found like these threads to tie these movies together. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
And any chance to get Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
100% true. 100% true.
All right. So this has been very fun talking with you guys about this musical. Thank you for showing up today. And further on in the series, we're going to be talking about The Music Man, Xanadu, hopefully the animated Beauty and the Beast, Mamma Mia. That's what's on our docket right now. And be sure to send us feedback at feedback@everyromcom.com. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And please, if you've enjoyed our work, consider donating to us at buymeacoffee.com/everyromcom. And thanks so much for listening today, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.